we got to visit that way, virtually. But no, it was just three of us here, and but we did our best to consume a nice meal. So that was
That's good to hear.
Hi, Luis.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Tight schedule.
Okay, it looks like it's 10:30. Mr. Secretary, should we go ahead and get the meeting started?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Let's call to order the City of Camarillo Planning Commission hearing of a regular meeting of December 1st, 2020. Mr. Secretary, can you please call roll?
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Vandermeulen,
Present.
Commissioner Edsel,
Here.
Commissioner Espinosa,
Here.
Vice Chairman Talmadge,
Here.
and Chairman Murphy.
And I'm here too. Good to see everyone. Happy holidays.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Good to see everybody. And for the viewing audience, I'm Joe Vaca. I'm the Director of Community Development and the Planning Commission Secretary. And then we have with us this evening, Rachel Richmond, City Attorney.
Good evening. I will be in for Kane Twin tonight, and answer any questions you have. I will be available.
All right, and that is Rachel?
Yes, Rachel.
Yes.
I know it shows as Brian. Sorry, we had some technical difficulties.
Not a
but
problem. Nice to meet you, Rachel.
yes.
Okay, so that moves us to the flag salute, and this evening will be led by Commissioner Edsel, I believe.
Yes, Jeff, please place your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the
Allegiance
flag
to the flag
United
of the United States of America,
America.
to the republic,
To the
which
republic
stands
for which it stands, one
One
nation,
nation.
one
Under
nation,
God.
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty
with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. It's amazing how on Zoom, we are so in sync on that. Just everything just perfectly lined up. All right, that brings us to the minutes where we review the minutes from our most recent hearing, which took place November 10th, 2020. Do we have any commissioner comments or questions on those minutes?
I
Motion
didn't
approved.
catch anything.
I'll second
All
it then.
right. I don't see any. Should we entertain a motion for approval?
So I'll move.
I'll
All right,
second.
so moved by Commissioner Espinosa. Seconded by, I believe, Commissioner Vandermeulen. Is that correct?
I thought I heard somebody else second it first.
All
If
right,
not, I will second it.
all right. I'll take that second. Thank you. Let's go ahead and vote. Commissioner Espinosa,
Yes.
Commissioner Vandermeulen,
Yes.
Commissioner Edsel,
Yes.
Vice Chair Talmadge,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. The minutes pass 5-0. Moving on to public comments, we'll open the public comments. This is the time at which anyone from the public may comment on any item that is not on tonight's agenda. Do we have anyone that would
I would like to ask the staff, Monique, looks like we do have one hand raised under attendees.
Correct,
Okay,
but I'm unsure if that's related to an item that's not for tonight. So if the attendee can lower their hand, if it's not related for tonight.
is it a public hearing? It's an item that's not on tonight's public hearing agenda. It's a non-public hearing related item.
I see a phone number. I don't see a name attached to that hand.
Well, I'll tell you what, Monique, can we please provide them access to speak right now?
Sure.
Thank you.
We have someone that has raised their hand. The last four digits of the phone number is 6091. Would you like to speak on a non-agenda item this evening?
It's not a non-agenda. It has to do with the project.
All right, so we'll go ahead and take your question.
Which
and comments.
project?
the project that you guys are just discussed over on the Lewis.
Okay, that's good. So that's item number 7 on our agenda. So
Yes.
we're going to come back to that, and we would want you to speak under that item if it's specific to that item.
Very good.
So
I'll
we'll
be
come
waiting.
back to you. If you could please raise your hand again when we get to that item, and we'll definitely bring you back for the ability to hear your input.
Thank
Okay,
you.
and thank you in advance for that. I don't see any other hands raised for public comment on non-agenda items. So we'll go ahead and close public comment and move on to item 6, which is the public hearing, CUP 387 Verizon Wireless. Could we have a staff report on this, please?
Yes, thank you. Mr. John Novi will be presenting this item.
Thank you. So the item before you tonight is conditional use permit 387 for Verizon Wireless. The project site is located at 4053 Calle Tesoro, adjacent to Pitch Ranch Park, off of Flynn Road. The request is for approval of a conditional use permit to establish a new stealth wireless communications facility that's in an industrial portion of the city in the M1 zone. The request also is to increase the allowable height in the M1 zone from 40 feet to 45 feet to accommodate the proposed tower that will be the stealth surrounding for the wireless facility. Under the municipal code, it's the planning commission that's the decision maker for the requested conditional use permit. You can see in this image, this is the proposed location of the new wireless facility. Right where that black vehicle is in the front of the screen will be where the tower is connected to the existing building. This tower will take up 3 parking spaces in the corner of the lot. There are currently 50 parking spaces on site. The tower will take away 3 parking spaces, leaving 47 behind. The existing uses in the building that are going to remain will require 37 parking spaces, leaving a surplus of 10 parking spaces for the site. As you can see here is the site plan that shows where the tower will be located. There will also be a new landscaping finger created next to the tower. Here are some elevations of the proposed tower. It will be using the same colors and materials as the existing building with smooth stucco, precast corrugated concrete. All of the ground mounted equipment will be in the base of the tower, which will be completely enclosed. There is some relief in the height of the tower with an additional roof element. The roof will be Spanish S tile, and there is some decorative venting at the top. As you can see on the elevations, the top of the antennas are proposed to be at the 40 feet, which is the maximum height in the M1 zone. However, there is a proposal to increase the height to 45 feet to accommodate the roof element on top of the tower. Here you can see some photo simulations of what the tower will look like on the building. The picture on the top right is a view from Calle Tesoro, where you'll be seeing the tower most easily from the street at the back of the building. The view in the bottom left-hand corner is a picture from Pitts Ranch Park. The tower will be mostly screened from the park due to the existing mature trees that are lining the edge of the park in between the park and the industrial park. And here is a picture of the tower peeking over the adjacent building from Flynn Road. The project was reviewed in accordance with CEQA, and it was determined to be a Class 32 infill exemption. There were some special conditions added to this project. The Municipal Code Chapter 1976 on wireless telecommunications facilities specifies that there are some special conditions to be included on all wireless facility conditional use permits. I'll briefly summarize what those are. The applicant must submit a radio frequency report for a third-party review within 60 days of commencement of the operations of the facility. All wireless communications facilities must comply with all standards and regulations of the FCC. A site must be maintained in a neat and orderly manner. The facility must comply with the noise ordinance. The applicant must notify the city within 10 days if their license is revoked. Applicant must remove the facility if it's not in use within 180 days, and the applicant must notify the city if there is a transfer of ownership. Staff is recommending approval of CUP 387, subject to the conditions of approval. The action of the Planning Commission is final unless an appeal is filed within 10 days of the date of their action. That concludes staff's report. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, thank you, Mr. Novi. Do any of the commissioners have questions for staff on this application? No questions from the, oh, we have a question from Vice Chairman Talmadge.
Yes, good evening. A couple of questions. It's noted that there's a generator that's going to be installed as an emergency generator in conjunction with this new tower. How often is that generator tested, and what noise emanates from that generator running?
The generator is going to be completely enclosed in the ground-mounted area of the tower element,
Okay.
and that is providing some sound attenuation. The applicant has provided a noise study showing that at peak noise producing, that at the closest property line, which I believe is approximately 37 feet, the loudest it'll be is 33 decibels, which is below the threshold in the noise ordinance for the PM peak. In terms of how often the generator is going to be tested, I don't have the specifics on that. The applicant is available, whom I know a little bit more, but in experience working with requests recently for generators on residential projects, it tends to be anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes every week or every other week.
Yeah, my concern was that the generator is running for a period of time, and that it be at a period of time when it would be least disruptive to any adjacent residential areas. And I think you've satisfied that question. There's also, next question has to do with the radio frequency report. What requirements are there for electromagnetic frequencies and having effect on people? What studies have been done, or what information has been provided that says we're not creating a potential hazard for area residents?
The EF report is going to be reviewed by a third-party consultant. It's not done in-house by staff. We have somebody who's going to be reviewing that as more of an expert in that than staff would be. However, that report's going to be reviewed against regulations put out by the FCC. The city doesn't have specific regulations. We rely on the FCC to conduct those studies and provide thresholds that are within the safe limits for proximity to residences and people, and we'll be relying on those standards for review of the project. And obviously, if it's not in compliance, then they will need to fix that, or the facility would not be operational.
Is there a reasonable expectation that all that is done is certainly in compliance and we're not posing a hazard to the adjacent community?
Yes, we believe that it'll be sufficiently safe. The condition of approval was adopted to require that within 60 days of operation of the facility that report be provided. So it's not that the facility would be in operation for months or years prior to the emissions from the site being effectively analyzed to ensure compliance with FCC guidelines.
Well, I think it's safe to say this isn't the same thing as a high voltage power line going across the community and putting out EMF. So I just want to be sure that we're not posing a potential hazard to local residents or anyone else.
So I appreciate that comment, and I also want to share that based on our wireless communication facilities ordinance, it must comply with the Federal Communications Commission standards of safety. And we do have requirements in our ordinance that state that, and we've actually hired a specialist that will analyze the electromagnetic frequency levels that come from the radio frequency waves for the facility to ensure compliance with those federal standards. So that's safety of utmost importance to staff as well. And that is why we do follow up with our local ordinance, and we do have a firm on contract with the city specifically to analyze those professional studies to ensure compliance.
Great. Yeah, it wasn't clear completely in the staff report. I just want to make sure that.
I appreciate the comment, and I think in the future we can beef that up in the staff report. And I do want to make mention that conditions of approval that started on page 41 and then end with conditions of approval 49, they do specifically address those concerns to ensure the standards are complied with. So thank you for the input, and we'll ensure the safety of the business tenants and any neighboring users in the park and or residents.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Commissioner Vandermeulen?
On the mentioning of sound, it brought to mind, when this is constructed, is there any additional wall being built along the existing building to add some more sound buffer between the tower and the building?
The tower itself will be self-contained, so there'll be additional buffer between where the generator is and the existing industrial building that the tower is going to be attached to.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure on that it wasn't just being built up against it, but it was totally encased.
One strange.
Yes,
question.
go ahead.
I assume by implication that Verizon is the tenant of the adjacent building next to where the tower is being built. Is that right?
No, Verizon is operating a lease space for the square footprint of where the tower will be.
Okay.
The existing building does have a current mix of office and industrial tenants.
Okay, but it's not Verizon.
No, Verizon will just have that the square on the ground of the footprint of the tower.
Okay. Where do their wires come from to get there?
It appears that on the proposed set of plans, there's a site plan listed as sheet A2 that shows the fiber line running to the west through the landscaping, and then it ties into an existing line that looks like it goes out to Calle Tesoro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's shown on sheets A1 is the full site plan that shows the full line of the fiber line, and A2 is showing a close-up going through the landscaping and doing that tie-in.
Okay.
So I would also offer, I believe the applicants are available to answer questions. Isn't that correct, John?
That's correct. The applicant is in the meeting as one of the panelists and is able to answer questions.
So if it gets into something very technical related to the site plan or design that may be something they could point out in more detail, that'd be helpful if we can table a question if we need to.
I'm fine. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other commissioner questions for staff? No? Okay, the only thing I have is, Joe, you mentioned the conditions having to do with the electromagnetic emissions. Which conditions were those that you pointed out?
Yes, thank you. Those are on the resolution pages, starting on page 5 at the bottom, and then they go through all of page 6 and into page 7. So specifically, it talks about 42, that a facility must meet all standards and regulations of FCC, and then no transmission equipment. They're referring back to our municipal code chapter. And so we have a variety of conditions in there. And we also, by ordinance, do have the ability to have electromagnetic frequency, radio frequency study provided to us for review, which we will be doing upon approval, and then at any time in the future.
All right, excellent. I see those in there now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, any further questions by commissioners for staff? I see none, so we'll go ahead and open the public testimony for this. Do we have a applicant representative with us this evening?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, good evening, commissioners. My name is Jerry Ambrose, here on behalf of Verizon Wireless. I do not have any additional information or additional presentation. I'm here to answer any questions. There was a question about the testing of the generator. That's done twice a month, once every 2 weeks for about 15 minutes. And I believe the remainder of the questions were answered by staff, but I can answer any additional questions you may have.
All right, do we have any questions of the commissioners for the applicant?
No.
Thanks for coming, Jerry. I have one question. It has, and again, has to do with the sound. I looked at the noise study, and it appears that in terms of at the park boundary, the decibels would be a continuous 33, something like that is what the study found. Is that correct? I mean, is that your understanding?
Yeah, it's sort of a two-part discussion. The generator is tested like I said, once every 2 weeks. And then the only time that the generator would actually be on longer than that is when you have a power outage. Because the site does have backup batteries. So if there's, like a 1-day outage or something, there are battery backups that will kick in first. And then the generator would only kick in if the outage is longer than that.
Okay, I should.
That case, yes, if it's operating longer than 15 minutes, yes, I guess it would be a continual sound.
I should have clarified. I was referring to the continuous noise that comes from the radio cabinets. So with the cabinet door closed, I believe it's 33 dBAs at the park boundary. So I was thinking about that continuous noise. The 33 is not a lot. It's, as I understand from the report, it's somewhere between urban night quiet conditions and a library, which I like to see.
The actual radio cabinets they each have a little fan. So that wouldn't generate the 33 decibels. I mean, you'd have to stand right next to them to hear those.
Okay, so it'd be kind of a soft hum. It would not be a buzzing, I guess, is the thing that I'm kind of concerned about. If, park users,
correct,
there for a picnic or whatever, they wouldn't be hearing this continuous buzz, regardless of how loud it is. And it doesn't sound like that would be the case. Is that a yes, Mr.?
Yes, that's correct. Sorry.
Mr. Ambrose? Okay.
I thought you had answered your own question, but okay.
Yeah, I kind of did, sorry. And the other thing that I understand from the noise study is it doesn't even include the sound attenuation that occurs due to the fact that it's enclosed by this tower. So it would be even less than that.
Yeah, the study does include the fact that we do have a wall between the generator and the property lines. The equipment and the generator are completely enclosed with a concrete wall. So that definitely dampens the sound, of course.
Okay, thank you. That answers my questions. Commissioner Vandermeulen, go ahead.
I was just going to say that looking at the plan, excuse me, it looks like it's really backing more to what would be a sports field or play area of the park, not the picnic areas. So, even if there was a little bit of sound, I don't think it would be bothersome at all to anybody that's out there, on that part of the park. But it sounds like it would be so minor. But looks to be a ways from the picnic areas, so I think it should be okay.
The city of Camarillo has an exceptionally low dB level allowance. Most city jurisdictions have a 65 dB and Camarillo has a 45. So your code is already sort of mandating that it be lower than normal.
Thank you. Any further questions? All right, then, thank you, Mr. Ambrose. I'd like to invite anyone from any attendee this evening to come forward and speak about this particular application. I'm looking for anyone with their hands up, and I don't see any. We did receive a letter a little bit ago from Wen-Ken Chen, who had concerns about the radiation for the nearby commercial buildings in Pitts Ranch. I'm assuming that the radiation, and I don't see, well, perhaps I should ask, is Wen-Ken Chen among the attendees tonight? Because I have some phone numbers and I don't know who that is. And I don't see any hands up. So without that, I'm assuming that the radiation concern has already been discussed tonight when we were talking about electromagnetic emissions. So seeing no further hands up and not having confirmation on that, I think we can go ahead and close public comment and move on to the Architectural Committee for this. Do we have a report?
We do, thank you. I just don't have a voice. We like the fact that it seemed to be fit in with the area around it very kind of unobtrusively. It blends in with the building and it's got the big trees behind it. Has variety in the sides of it going up and the roof line. It's not just a straight tower. We like the fact that the extra 5 feet and the roof is a gabled roof, so it's not a full square 5 feet. And that's kind of balanced. That flare slope of the roof is balanced about a third of the way down by an extra little flared tile apron that kind of meets with that and ties in with the design. It's not close to any residential buildings, any residential houses. Basically just the industrial area in the park. It's pretty much hidden by the building and by the trees. So overall, it's got a nice design to it. It's not just a big tall stack of stucco. And we like the design and felt it fit in well with the area. That's all I have.
All right, that's a great report. Do we have any commissioner questions for the Architectural Committee? No? All right, well, thank you very much for that. I guess that brings us to commissioner discussions and comments on. Yes.
I also wanted to make sure that the commission was all aware that we did receive a public comment via email that was forwarded to all the commissioners at 6:37 p.m. this evening. And it did, generally speaking, express concern about the potential for impacts to businesses within the vicinity and patrons at the park and potentially the residential community. And I do think there's been significant discussion on the part of the Planning Commission relative to that topic. So that was forwarded to all of you, and I'm sure you all received that.
And that's not the comment from Wen-Ken Chen, is it?
Via email, let me pull it up just a moment.
Yes, it is. To answer
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy, that is correct.
That's correct. Thank you, Monique. Yes, it is.
Okay, great. I believe we commented on that, and thank you for that.
Thank you. Just want to double check, make sure.
Yes, no, absolutely. So why don't we go ahead and move on to commissioner comments on this application? Would anyone like to get that started?
Yeah.
Commissioner Etzel.
Yeah, I think that for all the places we could place one of these towers, excuse me, these towers, this is a perfect spot for it. It's away from residential. It's at the kind of a tail end of an industrial park, and it's in stealth configuration. It's not a fake tree. It's, you know, within that house tower. So I think it's a perfect spot for it. and fills a need for the city. So I certainly support it.
Thank you. Commissioner Vandermeulen.
Well, I like the fact that it does have character to it. It's not just a tall stack of something, and that it is far away from residential. It's close to the park. You know, I think for me, it looks like an excellent location, and I think it's very well done.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Espinosa.
Yeah, it seems like, you know, a clean, straightforward presentation and project. I mean, I certainly think it might attract some attention at the point it's constructed and somebody sees something that wasn't there before that's 45 feet tall. But I think that, you know, as far as the aspects of the concerns expressed on the radio wave impacts and so forth, those are addressed in the requirements and so forth for meeting the FCC standards and having that third-party review beforehand. So I can support the project.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair Talmadge.
I had to unmute. One question. If it's a stealth facility, how come we can still see it? That's a joke, folks. Anyway, I think the project is very well done. The addition of the tower makes a lot of sense. It does hide the antennas and other appurtenances that hang off of antennas. And to me, there may be some interest when it's being constructed, but once it's built, it's like it's just part of the building. And okay, so what? You know, it's not a big deal. And I think that it's been tastefully handled as far as the architecture. And I appreciate the comments from the architectural committee. And I think this is a good project. So I think we should move forward with it. Pardon my joke, but.
All right, thank you. No, I loved your joke. It was wonderful. Yeah, no, I echo what everyone has said here. I'm impressed with the technology that you can now fully enclose these antennas and they still function satisfactorily. So I think I'd rather see that the building that Commissioner Vandermeulen spoke about that meets the city criteria and is something nice to look at rather than the fake tree that Commissioner Etzel doesn't like very much, and neither do I. So I can certainly support this project, this application as well. So do we have any further comments by the commissioners? Seeing none, why don't we go ahead and call for a resolution?
Thank you, Chairman Murphy. CUP 387, Verizon Wireless, resolution number Planning Commission 2020-26. A resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Camarillo approving a request for a conditional use permit for Verizon Wireless for the construction of a 45-foot tall high stealth wireless communications facility located at 4053 Calle Tesoro in the light manufacturing M1 zone, further described as CUP 387.
Make a motion to waive further reading and vote for adoption.
I'll second that.
Moved by Commissioner Etzel and seconded by Vice Chairman Talmadge. Let's go ahead and vote. Commissioner Vandermeulen,
Yes.
Commissioner Espinosa,
Yes.
Commissioner Etzel,
Yes.
Vice Chair Talmadge,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. It passes 5-0. Congratulations. And thank you, staff.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Okay, we are moving on to item 7. Are we all okay at this point to continue?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we are. So we will have a presentation by Jackie Lee.
That's great. So this is item 7. Public hearing, mitigated negative deck 2023 SCH number 2020-08050 and general plan amendment 2020-1, change of zone 330, tentative track map 6017, residential plan development permit 205, and conditional use permit 405. The lead applicant for this is the Area Housing Authority of the County of Ventura.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Chair Murphy and members of the Planning Commission. I'll just share my screen in a moment. Okay. The requests before you tonight have been submitted by the Area Housing Authority of the County of Ventura and include General Plan Amendment 2020-1, change of zone 330, tentative track map 6017, residential plan development 205, and conditional use permit 405. The project site is located at the southwest corner of Lewis Road and Berry Street at 2800 Berry Street. The 2.52 acre subject property was previously developed as a lumber yard. The city purchased the property in September of 2018 for a purchase price of $3.6 million using housing tax exempt bond proceeds. Prior to the close of escrow, approximately 463 tons of contaminated soil was removed, and the County of Ventura Environmental Health Division issued a no further action letter. In November of 2018, the city issued a request for proposals for the development of a new affordable housing project. The City Council selected the proposal from the Area Housing Authority and Many Mansions and entered into an exclusive negotiation agreement in May of 2019. In the spring of 2019, following the completion of lead and asbestos abatement, the lumberyard structures that previously occupied the site were demolished. Only the asphalt paved surface and former building foundations remain on the property. On December 11, 2019, the City Council authorized the city manager to execute a term sheet between the city and Area Housing Authority and Many Mansions. The term sheet sets forth potential terms for an agreement for the transfer and development of the property. So this screen shows the proposed general plan amendment request. The site is currently designated for industrial commercial land uses, and the proposal is to redesignate it from industrial commercial to high density residential, 18.1 to 30 dwelling units per acre. And then on this screen, this shows the companion change of zone application, which is seeking to change the zoning from its current light manufacturing or M1 zoning to residential plan development, 30 units per acre maximum. The requested general plan amendment and zone change will allow the development of a 68 unit affordable housing development submitted under RPD 205, conditional use permit 405, and tentative track map 6017. RPD 205 proposes to construct a 68 unit affordable housing project consisting of 59 affordable rental units restricted to extremely low income, very low income, and low income households, and 1 unrestricted manager's rental unit, and 8 affordable for sale condominium units restricted to low income households. The development would provide a density of 27 units per acre, which would be consistent with the high density residential general plan land use designation and the proposed RPD 30U zone. Conditional use permit 405 is a request to provide 7 single room occupancy units, or SROs for short, out of the 60 apartment units within RPD 205. A single single room occupancy unit is a small unit between 300 to 450 square feet with its own kitchen and bathroom and is rented on a monthly basis or longer. The city amended the zoning code in 2015 to allow SROs with the conditional use permit in the RPD 30 zone to comply with state law provisions to facilitate and encourage the development of a variety of housing for all income levels. The proposed tentative tract map is a request to subdivide the property into 2 lots of approximately 2.4 acres for lot 1 and 0.18 acres for lot 2. Lot 1 would accommodate the proposed 60 affordable rental units, recreation building, common areas, and the parking structure. Lot 2 would be reserved for condominium purposes in order to accommodate the proposed 8-unit affordable for sale attached townhome building. And this is the proposed site plan. Access to the site would be provided from driveways on Berry Street and on Lewis Road. A secondary driveway is proposed on Berry Street that will be for trash and fire access only. The site plan shows the configuration of the rental units to be spread across 4 buildings, which are buildings A, B, C, and D. The 8 for sale units will be provided within building E, consisting of all 3-bedroom units, and each townhome unit will have its own attached 2-car garage. An approximately 1,472 square foot community center will be located adjacent to a central common area, open space, and will offer various programs, services, and events for residents. Other on-site amenities include a children's playground, outdoor teen activity area, barbecue area, and open green space with walking paths throughout. 2 public art locations have been identified, one which would be at the corner of Lewis Road and Berry Street, and the other one would be incorporated into the community center stair tower here. Parking for the rental units will be located primarily in a 2-level parking structure at the rear of the site with access from both proposed driveways. Solar canopies are proposed on the 2nd level of the parking structure. An additional 14 open spaces are also located adjacent to the westerly property line. And then this shows the proposed tentative tract map. Lot 1 would follow the existing boundaries of the lot. And within lot 1, a new parcel, lot 2, would be created that follows the exterior walls of building E, which would be further subdivided into 8 condominium units. And this table shows the proposed unit mix. The apartments will consist of studios, 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units restricted to low, very low, and extremely low income households. There is also 1 2-bedroom unrestricted manager's unit proposed for a total of 60 apartments. 14 of the units will be reserved for physically, mentally, or developmentally disabled households, and all units will have preference given to veterans. The project also proposes 8 for sale units, all which will be 3-bedroom units restricted to low-income households. On this slide shows a table of the proposed floor plans. The development would provide for 6 different rental unit floor plans, ranging in size from 342 square feet for a studio unit to 1,044 square feet for a 3-bedroom unit. The studio units, which are plans S and T, would be the SRO units. All units will have their own kitchen and bathrooms. The project would also provide 2 different for sale unit plans. One of those is a 1,100 square foot single story accessible unit. And then the remaining 7 for sale units are 1,065 square feet to 2.5-story townhome units. And this shows a table of the parking for the project. The state density bonus law allows for affordable housing developments to use a lower parking standard, which would require a total of 107 parking spaces. However, one of the deal points the city has negotiated with the developer is that the project must comply with the parking requirements for a market rate housing development, except that the 14 special needs units may use a reduced ratio, as the developer has indicated that these households often do not have their own personal vehicles. Based on the city's requirements, a minimum of 149 parking spaces are required, and the project is proposing to provide 151 spaces. Each of the for sale units will have its own 2-car garage attached to the unit. The next few slides that I'll be presenting are the building architecture, starting with Building A, which is the building outlined in blue on the screen. All of the proposed buildings have been designed in a Spanish colonial style of architecture, consistent with the community design element and heritage zone design guidelines. The building design incorporates architectural elements such as stucco finish, concrete S-tile roof, decorative metal accents, cornices, corbels, tile awnings, and recessed windows. The main body of the residential buildings will be white in color with dark brown trim and black metal accents. The maximum building height allowed in the RPD zone is 25 feet, unless a greater height is approved under the RPD permit. The proposed buildings include varied 1, 2, and 3-story elements up to approximately 35 feet in height. The variation in building heights minimizes the building massing and helps to create architectural interest and variety. The building massing on Building A is at 2 stories along Berry Street, and then transitions to 3 stories as it gets further away from the street to provide for compatibility with the surrounding residential development. And Building B is an apartment building, and that also will have a transition from 2-story massing along Berry Street to 3 stories further away from the street. The north elevation, which is on the top left, shows the facade that would be facing Berry Street. And next is Building C, which is at the corner of Berry and Lewis. Building C goes up to 3 stories in the middle and then drops down to 2 stories at both ends. Also, to break up the massing, the building has openings at the stairwells, which allows for access to light and ventilation. Building D, which is located along the southerly edge of the property, includes 5 of the studio units, a manager's unit, laundry room, and community center attached to a 2-level parking structure. The top of the parking structure is approximately 12 foot 4 inches tall and will have solar canopies on top of the 2nd level. The building is highlighted by a tower feature and will include an art feature on the stairwell on the east elevation. The for sale units in Building E, which is on the westerly side of the property, provides a 1-story unit at the end of the building on the north elevation facing Berry Street, and then transitions to a 2.5-story building for the remaining 7 townhomes. The 7 townhomes have tandem garages on the ground floor, living area on the 2nd floor, and habitable attic space on the 1/2-story above. And this is a view from Lewis Road. The driveway entrance is on the left side of the screen. A decorative low wall is proposed along Lewis Road with landscaping and a new sidewalk in front of it. The buildings provide enhanced details such as tile roof awnings, metal grills, decorative wrought iron, and spacious patio and balcony areas. And this is the view from Berry Street, which shows the massing facing the street is at 2 stories, then goes up to 3 stories within the interior of the project. This also shows the plaza area that will also serve as a trash and fire access. And then this is a bird's eye view showing the Village Green area and tot lot in the middle of the development, the community building that has the tower feature, and the parking structure, which is to the right of the screen. And this is the colors and materials board with some images showing examples of some of the detailing that would be incorporated into the building. In accordance with the state density bonus law and the municipal code chapter 19.49, the applicant is requesting concessions to allow for compact parking spaces in the parking structure and tandem compact parking spaces within the private garages for the for sale units. They're also asking for a reduction in the required common open space in the required amount of common open space from 48,875 square feet to be reduced to approximately 30,538 square feet. And also they're seeking a reduction in the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 10 feet from the parking structure to the westerly property line. The project complies with all other development standards. The applicant is also seeking a waiver of the city's underground utility requirement. The recommended Public Works conditions of approval includes the following condition shown on this slide regarding the undergrounding of existing utilities. The applicant is requesting the city to waive the requirement of undergrounding the poles and overhead utility lines adjacent to the westerly property line. The applicant has stated that the undergrounding of the overhead power lines and utility poles would impose significant and undue hardship for the affordable housing development due to the cost and logistical challenges involved. The applicant's written request is attached to your agenda report. The City Council may waive or conditionally waive the provisions of the municipal code when it finds that the requirements of an undergrounding installation of utility lines would be unreasonable or impractical, considering but not limited to the following: geographical or soil conditions, topographical conditions, or when the development of commercial, industrial, or residential property, which is in an existing overhead area and where undergrounding or extension of undergrounding to surrounding areas is not contemplated within such length of time as the council deems reasonable, so as to require immediate undergrounding, and the city council determines that the area is unique and of special circumstances. The Planning Commission is requested to make a recommendation to the City Council with respect to the applicant's request for a waiver. The City Council will be the decision maker of the request for the waiver, including any requirement for the applicant to pay an in lieu fee. Staff has reviewed the proposed general plan amendment against the community goals and general plan goals and finds that the project is consistent with the goals of the city. Specifically, these include that it is consistent with the city's community goals because it preserves the community character, as the proposed project will redevelop a vacant, blighted infill site into a well-designed 68-unit affordable housing development. Also, the project is consistent with the city's general plan because it supports the city's housing goals of encouraging the availability of a variety of housing designs, tenures, and prices to meet the needs of present and future city residents. It also is consistent with the community design element as it provides for a well-designed, attractive workforce and affordable housing development, which is compatible with surrounding properties. Additionally, The project promotes strategies to achieve the goals in the city's economic development strategic plan as it creates residential options and employment opportunities attractive to young professionals and technology workers. The project will provide various project benefits that public benefits that provide the rationale for approval of the project, including the following. This project will redevelop a vacant blighted infill industrial site with a new high quality affordable housing project. The project provides for additional affordable housing on an infill redevelopment site that contains existing infrastructure without affecting existing agricultural lands, curb, or city boundaries. The project provides housing opportunities for low, very low, and extremely low income households. The proposed project provides a range of housing types, including an opportunity for home ownership, as the project includes 60 rental units and 8 for-sale townhomes. The project will also provide 14 units reserved for physically, mentally, or developmentally disabled households. The project also includes 7 SRO units of the 60 rental units, supporting the diversity of housing types within the city. The project promotes the goals of the city's economic development strategic plan because it will create residential options to attract young professionals and technology workers, and is in proximity to the employment centers such as Flynn Road Industrial Area, the Naval Base Ventura County, and Cal State University Channel Islands. The project would also assist the city in meeting progress of housing production of low, very low, and extremely low income units during the 6th cycle RHNA. The housing project is well designed and consistent with the city's heritage zone design requirements, which has been designed in a Spanish colonial style of architecture. The project exceeds the number of parking spaces required under state law. Except for the special needs units, it will provide parking in compliance with a market rate housing development. The project provides on-site amenities, including the playground, outdoor common area, community center, barbecue, and seating area. And then finally, the project includes 2 public art installations. And now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Joe Power with Rincon Consultants, who was the city's consultant that prepared the initial study and mitigated negative declaration for the project. Joe, can you hear me? Are you able to enable your audio? Monique, can you see if he is?
His mic is unmuted, but his video is not showing. But it looks like his mic is unmuted.
Okay. I don't know if we're having maybe some technical difficulties.
I just requested that he start his video, so that might prompt him, hopefully.
I'll be controlling the slides for him. He just needs to do the oral presentation, and I'll advance the slides. Do you see him there as a panelist?
Yes, he's a panelist.
Okay.
I see it too. It looks as though he's unmuted, but his camera is not functioning, which is fine. Joe, can you hear us? Joe Power? So why don't we take a 5-minute recess and then why don't we call him on his cell phone?
That sounds good. It's 8:30 right now. Should we reconvene at, say, 8:36, 8:37?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. Would that be sufficient, Jackie, to try to get a hold of him on his cell phone?
Yes.
Okay, let's do that. Thank you. We'll pause the meeting. Okay, Mr. Murphy, I understood from David and Jackie that they're going to be getting the consultant onto the Zoom via telephone. So we're just waiting for a moment. Hopefully we'll hear from them momentarily with the test. So let's just be patient. Hopefully we'll be ready here in a minute.
That's great. We'll go ahead and stand by. Thank you.
Thank you. David, do we have any updates? Or Jackie?
It appears he's trying to connect, Joe. I thought I saw him, but we may have lost him again. I was trying to promote him to a panelist, but he's joining by phone. So as soon as I see his number join, I will promote him and then we can resume.
Okay, when he gets on, if you could please let us know, Monique, that that's in process, that'd be helpful.
You got it.
Thank you. Monique, is there any update?
He still hasn't joined by phone. I'm closely watching it.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, Joe, it looks like he just joined. I'm about to promote him to a panelist, so it'll be about another 10 or 15 seconds before I believe the connection will allow him to speak as a panelist. So sit
Thank
tight.
you. Thanks. Thank you very much for your patience, Planning Commission and audience.
Absolutely.
Trying to work with this technology and make it as seamless as possible.
Okay, Joe. So it looks like because of the method that Mr. Power joined, we can't promote him to a panelist. However, I can allow him to speak, which I just did, so we can resume.
Okay, let's do that. And then Jackie, can you share your screen and advance the slides when he says advance?
Yes.
Okay, so are we ready, Joe Power?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Are you ready to go?
Okay. I'm ready to go. First,
Okay.
I want to apologize. I guess I need a new computer. My apologies to everyone for for the holdup. At any rate, I'll try to get through this quickly now since we've wasted a few minutes. Yes, Rincon assisted the city, as Jackie indicated, with the preparation of the mitigated negative declaration for the project. I'm going to quickly run through the process and a few items regarding the CEQA environmental review. The first step was just the preparation of the initial study. Once that was completed, we circulated that along with what's called a mitigated negative declaration, or M&D, for a 30-day public review period as required by state law. That was from September 4th until October 5th. After that, we received 6 comment letters, and actually received a 7th letter yesterday or today, but received 6 during the comment period. I'll talk about those more in a minute. Preparation of the final initial study M&D included responding to comments, which is not technically required for M&Ds, but we did prepare written responses anyway, and the preparation of a mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the one mitigation measure that I'll talk about more in just a minute. And then the last step is where we are now, where the city makes a decision on the project. So next slide, please, Jackie. These are the environmental issues that we studied in the M&D. These are right out of the CEQA checklist, which is in Appendix G of the state CEQA guidelines. I won't read them all off to you, but it's about almost 20 issues that we study, as you can see, ranging from aesthetics to air quality to land use and utilities and the like. You've probably mostly seen these before. The one issue for which we found a significant environmental impact was biological resources. Honestly, biological resources I would classify as a pretty minor issue generally for this site, being in a developed area. But we did find one potentially significant impact relating to the potential presence of nesting birds. We did not find any nesting birds on site at this time, but of course birds can come and go. And so by the time construction begins, more than a year from now, there is a possibility of that active bird nest could be present at that time. So I'd say we very conservatively assumed that that was a significant impact and included a mitigation measure for that. Next slide, please, Jackie. Now, the one mitigation measure was involving doing a pre-construction nesting bird survey and, as necessary, avoidance if construction and grading or tree removal occurs during the bird nesting season. If no birds nests are found, then no further action would be needed. If active bird nests are found, then the mitigation would be to establish an appropriate buffer until the birds have flown the coop, so to speak. It's pretty standard mitigation measure. And again, I want to be clear, it's not that we know of any active nests at this time, but they could be present at the time construction begins. So that's when the survey needs to be done. Next slide, please. Now, when we circulated the M&D for public review for that 30-day period, we received, as I mentioned, 6 comment letters, 3 from agencies. 1 was from Caltrans and 2 from departments at the County of Ventura. We received letters from 2 individuals, neighbors, and 1 from a local carpenters union called the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters. And some of the key issues raised in response to the draft M&D related to transportation and traffic. Caltrans generally agreed with our findings and conclusions for the transportation analysis. They did point out that there may be a need for a couple of Caltrans permits during the construction period, and we acknowledge that in the final M&D. And a couple of neighbors expressed some concern about increased traffic. That is not necessarily an issue for us under CEQA at this time, but we nevertheless did a traffic study as part of the M&D, and that study concluded that there would be no significant traffic impacts related to level of service based on city thresholds. There were also a couple of comments from the County of Ventura regarding stormwater and flooding. This was really just looking for some clarification of how the project was going to comply with applicable rules, so we clarified that in the responses. There was a concern raised about the bird nest mitigation and a suggestion that that may be deferral of mitigation. We do not think that's the case. As I mentioned previously, the point of that survey is really to verify that there are no active nests on site at the time construction takes place. And we really can't do that verification until right before construction begins. If we did it now, obviously, we wouldn't know what the conditions are going to be like at the time construction actually occurs. So we don't think there's any deferral there. We not only think the timing is appropriate, but we do have specific actions that need to be taken in the event that active bird nests are found. So we think we're fine there. There were also some concerns raised about construction health risk and noise. There was a suggestion we should have done a formal quantitative health risk assessment related to construction. We do not think that's the case. The construction period is less than 2 years, and we're typically looking at health risks related to cancer. We're usually looking at periods of 30 to 70 years. So given the relatively short time frame of the construction activity, we do not think there's any real possibility of a significant cancer risk related to construction activity. I'll say that we've done many projects similar to this, and we've rarely done a health risk assessment for a project like this. And when we have done them, we've never found a significant health risk impact. With respect to noise, the suggestion was that we had underestimated noise and used the wrong thresholds. We don't think that's the case. The city's noise ordinance specifically exempts construction noise as long as the construction occurs between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. The applicant is going to comply with those timing restrictions. So we really don't think there's any violation of the city's noise ordinance. The suggestion in one of the comments was that we should be using a city community noise standard to gauge the significance of noise. We don't think that's appropriate. The community noise standards reference that are from your noise element are really intended to determine whether the ambient noise level for a proposed use is appropriate for that use, not to measure construction noise. Construction is regulated, as I said, by your noise ordinance, which exempts construction activity from the specific quantitative thresholds or standards, as long as it occurs during the daytime hours. So again, we think we're fine there. And then finally, the last issue that I wanted to mention was COVID-19. There was a suggestion that we should have addressed that issue specifically, and that there may be a significant impact. And there was a suggestion of a number of specific measures that ought to be included to mitigate that impact. We don't think that's appropriate. Not only is the construction more than a year away, so we don't know what the situation is going to be more than a year from now. We also don't think there's any evidence that this construction project would create any significant COVID-related impact to any of its neighbors. And we also think it's important to recognize that the city and the state and all the other agencies involved in COVID regulation are going to have specific standards in place that all construction activity, and as we know, all activity will need to comply with to address those impacts. We don't think that is a significant concern. So the long and short of it is we did get a number of comment letters, but we do not think any of those identified any new significant impacts that we did not identify in the draft M&D. So we do not think that recirculation of the document is warranted or that there is a need for any further review as part of an environmental impact report. That's it for me. I'll be here to answer questions if you have them. And again, my apologies for the technical glitch.
Thank you, Joe. So I just, there's some feedback. Okay.
If you could mute the phone now, Monique, please. Okay, try again, Jackie.
Okay, so I just have one more slide to conclude staff's presentation, which is the following recommendations to the Planning Commission, which is we recommend that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution recommending to the City Council approval and adoption of mitigated negative declaration 2020-3. Adopt a resolution recommending approval to the City Council of General Plan Amendment 2020-1. Adopt a resolution recommending approval to the City Council of change of Zone 330. Adopt a resolution recommending approval to the City Council of tentative track map 6017. and adopt a resolution recommending approval to the City Council of Residential Plan Development 205 and Conditional Use Permit 405. The Planning Commission is also being asked to make a recommendation to the City Council on the request regarding the waiver to underground the existing utilities adjacent to the westerly property line in the resolutions for the tentative track map and RPD/CUP. And that concludes my report. The staff is available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Thank you also, Mr. Power, for your reports. Very illuminating and extensive. Do we have any commissioner questions for staff at this time? Commissioner Espinosa, if you'll unmute yourself, go ahead, please.
Yes, do we still have Mr. Power on the line?
We do.
Can you hear me, Mr. Power?
I can. Yes, I can.
Okay. Quick question. This came up once before, and I have now that it's come up in this presentation. I wanted to ask about the environmental impact report process as far as the public review period. What is the actual function of the public review period having a start and an end time? Since we have comments that do come in after the close date or the end date, or end time, I should say, and those get addressed and get incorporated into the report as well. So could you speak to that?
But sure. I'm going to say, technically, I mean, a couple of things. Technically, as I mentioned before, the city under CEQA does not need to respond in writing to any of the comments that they receive during or after the public review period under CEQA. The city is legally required to respond in writing to comments on an environmental impact report, EIR, but not for an M&D. That said, the city does have an obligation to consider comments that it receives during the public review period. And usually the ways agencies demonstrate that they've considered the comments is to respond in writing. And so that's what we did here. Yeah, technically, I would say you really, again, in terms of responding and considering comments from a CEQA standpoint, you're probably, strictly speaking, only obligated to consider those that came in during the public review period. But again, I'll say most agencies that we work with, Camarillo included, tend to want to bend over backward to make sure they're being responsive to comments that come in even after the public review period whenever we can. Sometimes they come in too late for us to do anything about it. But as I mentioned, we got a late letter yesterday, a second letter from someone who had commented during the comment period. And essentially they were responding to our response to the comments that they submitted previously. And since we had the time today and were able to do it just as a show of sort of good faith, we thought it would be good to go ahead and respond again, just to make sure our position was clear. But I'd say technically there's no CEQA obligation to have responded.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I think it shows a lot of good faith, especially the amount and the extent of work that went into responding to the concerns and questions that did come up. In saying that, I really couldn't find the one letter 6, which was for the Carpenters Union, on behalf of the Carpenters Union. There were a number of objections or questions brought up in that letter, but I couldn't really tell what they were referring to in terms of what new information came in that had to be considered that would require a recirculation.
Yeah, well, typically for us, recirculation, this is all specified in the CEQA guidelines, recirculation is required when there is, as you mentioned, significant new information. And CEQA is pretty specific about what significant new information is. A new significant environmental effect or an increased severity, a significant impact of substantially increased severity. So let's say we already identified a significant impact, but it turns out now we're saying it's a whole lot worse. Then that might be significant new information warranting recirculation. But those are really the only things that CEQA specifies as requiring recirculation. Everything else, and I think everything that we did in response to that letter and the others that we received in this case, I would classify as clarification and expansion upon analyses that we've already done to further explain the work that we'd already done. None of it identified new significant impacts or increased severity significant impacts that we think would warrant any sort of recirculation.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. I have a question for staff. Just regarding the times we're in and with our Zoom, having to conduct our meetings via Zoom, we might be getting less public participation and comment. So I think, you know, my preference would be, if it's possible, if we could have, you know, because we had a kind of hunt for this information in terms of what the public comments were to this entire project. And so is there some way we can incorporate or include that into the actual packets we receive, to just be able to find them there easily?
I appreciate the comment. Yes, moving forward, we can make that part of the printed packet. I know that we have been providing links to digital copies, but for any commissioner that would like, please let us know and we can provide printouts for the
right. Yeah, just because I'm very interested in knowing what how the public's weighing in, and it's nice to have it just there right immediately in the packet to review. And as far as the original letters and documentations, where do those reside after? Because I think, you know,
it'll be included. The comments relative to the environmental document are included in the draft mitigated negative declaration, including the responses from our consultant in the city. And that is available right now on our website, and links were provided in the agenda report. But if any commissioner ever wants us to actually print those, we could do that.
Okay, thanks.
And it's been posted on our website also.
Yeah, understood.
Thank you for that, though. So in the future, if you want copies, please let us know. We'd be happy to do that.
Okay, thanks. Really, the technical question, I guess I'd ask the staff maybe, is the, I wasn't sure how they talked about the water net zero impact for the project. How exactly were they going to see that was going to be achieved for the amount of water that they're anticipating here? How they actually determine that they're going to be able to achieve that?
So there will be conditions of approval and requirements based on a water ordinance that they will have to provide a water offset to achieve that net zero. So there's no impact on the current water customers for the city prior to obtaining, I believe, their grading permits. And I have, we have with us from Public Works, Ms. Tally Tucker, if you could please weigh in on that.
Hi, Mr. Chairman, planning commissioners. Yes, so today they have calculated the demand, and so they will need to now come up with a strategy. And before, as Mr. Vaca said, before we issue the grading permit, before we issue a will serve letter, they'll have to show us a workable strategy. And then prior to the building permit, we'll have to make sure that that's in place. So I don't know if the applicant has already started some of that strategy, but so far we have only seen the demand calculation and not the strategy. But again, it's condition of approval. They'll have to do it before we issue the permit or the will serve letter.
Okay, thank you. And then the last thing I want to ask is about the, for staff, about the parking garage. Is that going to be secured as far as access for residents only, or is that open for somebody to drive into the complex, park in the parking garage, or?
It's a good question. At this point, it is open because it will provide parking for residents and potentially guests. And there, as far as I know, is no plan to gate that.
Okay, I was looking at it from the security aspect, and safety aspect, I guess, evening hours, nighttime, that sort of thing.
It will be illuminated fully, so that's something that we'll definitely make sure that it's fully illuminated. We also received some input that we want to make sure there's no glare coming from the parking structure, but in the deck underneath that's basically fully covered by the top parking deck, there won't be any glare coming out of that, but it will be well illuminated. And then we also anticipate that with the solar panels on the top deck, that there'll be lighting underneath those as well that'll be directed downward. So Jackie, was there any additional information that you wanted to share on that topic?
No, I think that covered it pretty well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tally, also. Thank you, Tally, for hopping in on the water question.
All right, thank you, Tally, for that and for your questions. Commissioner Espinosa, do we have any other questions for staff by commissioners? Commissioner Etzel?
Yeah, I think on that parking for security too, if I understand, there's going to be an on-site manager that maybe would be involved in, if it got to be an issue. But I had a question of staff on the 8 affordable units. Are those going to have deed restrictions on them so that they have, like we typically do, the 55 years and it continues on to be affordable if they end up reselling those?
Yes, all of the affordable units will have deed restrictions for 55 years. The rental units will be a term of 55 years, and the ownership will be term of 55 to start. And if they are sold, it'll reset for an additional 55 years.
Okay, thank you. And I had one more question, Chairman, is on the waiver of the underground utilities. I think it makes sense on this project, but do we have any precedent for that, Joe? Have we done that to anybody else in the city?
I believe there have been requests, and I'd actually defer to Mrs. Tucker on that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and commissioners. We have had projects in the past that have appealed conditions. So basically they asked for the waiver after we had already conditioned and after it had already been through Planning Commission. So you may not have any of that, in your memory because it really didn't come through the Planning Commission. In this case, they requested the waiver after the Development Advisory Committee meeting and before Planning Commission. So that's why it's coming before you on its way to City Council. So we do have others around town. Some have been waived. Some, the most popular is being waived and having an in lieu fee added to the waiver. But it's totally up to the City Council whether they fully waive it with a condition to have an in lieu fee paid or deny the request and have them underground.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any other commissioner questions? Commissioner Vandermeulen.
Thank you. Back to the environmental impact report, just one question on the nesting survey they have to do. Is that only on nests or trees on this lot, or do they have to go out and do that on any neighboring tree lot? Because there are no trees on this lot.
Yeah, I think it is trees on or immediately adjacent to. So I think they'd be looking at the ones sort of around the periphery of the lot as well.
Okay.
And if there's a nest on one of those, there may be a need for some kind of buffer zone, again, until the nest is empty. Yeah, but yeah, it would include the immediately adjacent trees.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it went to the adjacent or only on the site. Thank you.
Certainly.
For staff, just want to verify on the 8 for sale lot, are those going to be individually parceled lots?
So no, they're going to be townhomes or condominiums. So it's going to be on one primary lot and then there'll be airspace.
Okay. I have trouble when you use townhomes and condominiums together.
Okay, so let's call them condominiums. They're,
Okay.
they're airspace.
Okay, thank you.
And they're attached. They all share common walls.
Right. It's just that typically, in my background, townhomes all own the land underneath them.
I understand. Thank you.
So I get confused when I'm hearing both for the same project. So thank you for explaining that. I had a couple other questions that really are more towards the development of the project. Can I ask those? One concern I had was the fencing along Lewis Road. I'm not sure that it's tall enough to really maybe mitigate some of the sound and the emissions from the cars that go by there, all the traffic and trucks. Especially after we've had to eat outside, and I've eaten at El Tecolote a couple times on the patio next to the street. And it does get rather noisy. So I didn't know if there was any way to consider making that fence a little bit taller that's along Lewis Street to maybe help in some of that noise. And in the parking garage or somewhere, have they planned for bicycle racks? If there are people that ride bikes instead of driving, is there any secure area planned for bicycles? And then I think the only other question I had is on the solar panels on top of the parking garage, how much electricity is that expected to supply for the apartments? So that's, I think, all of my questions. And I don't know who those go to.
I would recommend that the applicant respond to your last two questions.
Okay. All right.
And then on the question of this sound wall or the higher wall, how would staff respond to that? Was that studied in a noise study?
Yes, the noise study in the mitigated negative declaration, sorry, I'm hearing an echo, did not identify any significant impact relative to noise. However, typically the mitigated negative declaration is looking at the impact that the project has on the environment. In this case, I think we're talking about reverse CEQA, where the existing condition with the traffic on Lewis Road may have on the future residents. We can certainly request that the applicant, and I believe there may be a condition of approval, I have to check, but I believe there is already a requirement in the building code that requires the noise levels within the interior of those residential units to be within a certain decibel level that's required under the building code. And our noise ordinance also has certain thresholds as well. And I believe, and I'll have to double check that there may be a condition in there to that effect, that it will need to comply. If you give me one moment. If you go to page 116 in your binder, there's conditions 148 through 151. And condition 149 requires, prior to zone clearance, that an acoustical analysis be done and reviewed by the city, and that the buildings must incorporate noise attenuation as recommended by the acoustical engineer if that is required for noise attenuation to meet the municipal code requirements.
Well, I think part of my concern was not only inside the buildings, but I'm not sure how much space there is between the buildings and the wall, and if kids would be playing out there or walking or sitting and visiting, that they still need to have some protection from that sound coming from the street also. So.
Right. The project doesn't have any private per se yards. They are common areas.
Right.
But if it is, the recommendation of the Planning Commission, we can certainly look at the conditions of approval if you feel that warrants any additional updates to that condition to address that.
I just want to make sure that they can enjoy being outside as well as inside, if that's possible. So, but other than the electricity on the solar panels, I think that answered my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Vice Chair Talmadge, please.
Yes, good evening. And thank you, Jackie, for your exhaustive but very good presentation. And I certainly appreciate Joe Power being here from Rincon. And I do have some questions that kind of go towards the mitigated negative declaration. So Joe, I don't know if you're still on the line or not. Are you there? I don't see you.
I am still here.
You are here. Okay, great. Wonderful.
I am.
Okay. Kind of picking up what Commissioner Vandermeulen was talking about, the mitigation of noise coming from Lewis Road. That's a very busy road with a good number of tractor trailer trucks as well as cars. Did you look at that in terms of a noise study or potential impact that would necessitate having a mitigation measure be placed on the project?
No, not really. I think we touch on that a little bit, but as Jackie mentioned, there was actually a Supreme Court case a few years ago. We used to look at that sort of thing very commonly in CEQA documents.
Right.
But the Supreme Court ruled a few years ago that CEQA is focused on the impacts of a project on the environment, not the impacts of the environment on a project. So
You're right. You're right. That came out of Orange County. I know that. Yes.
Yeah. So as a result of that, we don't usually get into that in CEQA documents these days. It's really, it is an important design consideration. It's something, and there are certainly rules for interior. The noise level that they need to achieve is 45 decibels CNEL. So all the interior spaces need to meet that standard. And the city may, I can't recall, but the city may have specific standards that they need to meet for exterior as well. But yeah, that's really not a CEQA issue these days.
No, I understand. I get it. I was just wondering if you did look at it and if there was anything there. Okay. And yes, I am familiar with the Supreme Court case.
Sure. Okay.
Now, I guess, I'm not sure who this goes to, I guess staff, but talking about the parking access, there are two entrances to the project, both leading into parking structures. But it raises a question in my mind. If you're in buildings A, B, and C, where do you park? There's no parking immediately adjacent to any of those buildings. So I guess you're parking over in another garage and then have to walk to your unit. Is that right?
Yes, you'll be parking in the parking structure and walking similar to other apartments.
Okay, well, for a couple of the buildings, that's kind of a hike.
That's true.
You know, with all the rain that we have around here, my goodness. That's
well, we were trying to do our best to accommodate as much opportunity for residents with affordable housing as possible, and trying to achieve almost basically meeting our parking ordinance. And to do that, they've actually included a parking structure, which is extremely costly. And we know that in some instances it's not ideal, but it's what the best opportunity we could come up with the design. And I think the architect could speak to that probably better than I could.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what they have to say whenever they come back online. But related to that is, where is visitor parking? Is it just any spot you find, or is there designated visitor parking for anyone coming to the site to visit someone that lives there?
I'd like RRM to respond to that, please.
Yeah, okay. So that's a question for them to answer. And then, are there elevators that serve the 3-story buildings? Is the 3rd floor accessible by elevator only or stair only, or both? So, okay.
We'll have the architect will be responding to that.
Okay. And then on the underground utilities, I understand undergrounding everything on site. I get that. And what I read in the staff report and otherwise was this pretty much pertained to those above ground power poles to the west of the site, which actually sit on private property, not a part of this project. And is that correct? Is that what we're really saying here?
On the tentative map, Jackie had in her presentation that showed sheet 1 of the tentative map. If you look on there, there is a 12-foot wide easement.
Yes, I see it.
And that easement straddles the property. So while the poles are immediately adjacent and not on the property, the easement is on the property. So in the ordinance, it does say if there is an easement for the power poles, then we need to condition it to go underground.
Yeah, okay. So, so the request for a waiver to not do it on that west side is to just leave the poles as they are.
That's correct. The applicant was also raising when Jackie mentioned logistics, they would have to convert each and every house that, as the poles come down and the wires come down, then they would do conversions all the way up to the houses and on
Right.
the side of the houses. So they put that into their hardship request.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, I just want to be clear on what we were really talking about. We're not talking about anything to the south or north or east.
Correct. The condition does say west and east, but the request for waiver is just for the west.
Yes, got it. Okay. And the pay in lieu fee, well, how is that calculated?
Yeah, that is calculated if council wants to allow them to pay an in lieu fee. That's on a linear foot basis, and there's about 123 feet between the 2 poles. So it's the length adjacent to the property, and the current fee is $328 a linear foot. So the in lieu fee would be about $40,000 as an in lieu fee, and that just is a defray. It kind of defrays the overall cost of what it would be if they actually undergrounded. They'd probably be looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars to actually do all the undergrounding work.
Is there any thought of putting the utility underground and abandoning the existing poles in place? Can that be done? So you don't disrupt the service? Or are you saying that the service entry to those houses comes off that main pole?
Where the homes get serviced, the existing homes,
Yes.
they have an overhead wire up to these poles and wires.
Okay.
So typically, the undergrounding requirement is to go to the nearest suitable pole off-site, and in some cases, you could be chasing that down the street a ways, even away from a development. So,
Right.
as much as we're talking, the in lieu fee is just for what's immediately adjacent to the property. If they were to have to underground, they maybe the suitable pole is the next street over, People's Street or whatnot. So that gets determined by Edison what the suitable pole would be. So we don't even know what that would be right now.
Okay. Do you have any indication, or maybe the applicant should answer, are they willing to pay this in lieu fee? I mean, they're asking for the waiver, but what other considerations go along with the waiver? I mean, one option is to pay an in lieu fee. Okay, well, what else is possible?
Correct. So usually the council will either waive it entirely, or they'll waive it and require the in lieu, or they will deny it. We don't get into an in lieu conversation really with the applicant because this is where that conversation would take place based on your questions, not as part of our presentation in terms of taking one side or another as far as whether staff recommends an in lieu fee. That's totally up to you recommending it and for council to decide.
Right. Are we going to have, this is a general question, I think, to Joe, are we going to have an opportunity to hear from the applicant on this kind of question?
Yes.
Okay. Next question has to do with water demand. And in the mitigated negative declaration, they just quoted the same thing that was the water supply study that was done by the, essentially by the applicant. And they talked about 70 gallons per capita per unit. Now, did that include just interior water use? Because that factor often includes interior and exterior use for irrigation. But irrigation is not part of these apartments. That's a separate issue. So when they calculated the water demand, you calculated it on the number of units. Okay, well, what about the landscape irrigation?
For when Public Works review, we have the same question. We didn't really see the outdoor or landscaping separated. So we don't know of their demand, how much is for that. That's a great question. Maybe the applicant can respond to that.
Yeah, I'll leave that for the applicant to touch on. I'm making a quick note, okay? No, I think that's my questions for now. Thank you very much. And again, I appreciate all the work that has been done by the consultants for the environmental work and the MND and to staff on a very extensive report. It seems like it's real simple on the surface, but it ain't so. It's very intricate and very involved. So thank you for the work.
Thank you, Vice Chair Talmadge.
Thank you.
Commissioner Vandermeulen, if you unmute yourself and go ahead, please.
Thank you. Just one more follow-up traffic question. I'm wondering if they did any consideration of signal at Berry and Lewis or some way to make a center or turn lane that you can turn left into the middle lane. Right now, there is kind of a center area there, but it's solid lines all the way around it. So legally, you can't really turn into it. And I know just oftentimes coming out of the restaurant, it's very difficult to make a left turn onto Lewis. So did they give any consideration in the environmental report of mitigating the traffic left turns there at that intersection?
This is Jason Samanti. Commissioner Vandermeulen, yes, the traffic study did look at the intersection of Berry and Lewis, and the traffic signal was not warranted at that intersection.
Okay.
In terms of striping, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I know it's very close back to the one at the railroad stations and the freeway. But would there be any way to where there is kind of a middle section that a car can fit in, of like restriping that to where a car could turn in there to be able to make the left turn a little easier?
That would be a question we'd have to approach Caltrans. Their requirement is to have a shoulder, and in order to fit a left turn pocket there, you'd have to narrow the shoulder, and that would require a letter from Caltrans basically saying that they would reduce their requirements.
Okay.
And actually, it's their street, so they would actually have to restripe. So.
Okay. Because I just see we'll have more cars that will be having to make left turns than what we have now. So, and that can be very difficult at times. So thank you.
Okay, do we have any further questions for staff from my fellow commissioners? No? Then I have a few. One has to do with the units that are the for sale units that are interior to the 3-story. I understand they have 2.5 stories and that there's a attic kind of half story on top. Does that half story, is that included in the square footage of those units, or is the half story square footage not included in the square footage reported?
It is included in its habitable area.
All right, and how high is the half story?
In terms of feet, I would ask Jackie to share that info.
I'm looking at the plans right now, and it is about 14 feet tall.
The half story?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I misunderstood the half story. The half story is just for half of the footprint, and it's a nice high ceiling.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh,
That clears that up.
More like a large dormer area inside the
Right.
living space.
Okay, that's great. On the SRO units, there's, I think, a few that are underneath the ramp for the parking garage. Is that
Correct.
true?
Yes,
That's
that is.
So in the noise attenuation study, was that considered for the residents that would be, living below the traffic that would be
The
using that
noise
ramp?
attenuation study is a condition of approval that we would that would be prepared for the project prior to issuance of a permit. So we would have to verify at that time that it complied with those standards.
Got it. And I would think that would be included in that study, obviously.
Yes.
I would hope. Okay. And then in the utility undergrounding, just to confirm, the 2 poles on Lewis will be undergrounded?
Yes, they have not requested any waivers from that requirement.
Okay, great. And again, to verify the solar power panels that are shown on the top of the parking garage, that's not in the conditions, but it's required as a matter of course through the building permit. Is that correct? That's a standard building requirement for this type of development?
There are building requirements that do require residential projects to have solar be solar ready. This solar carport structure was proposed by the developer as part of the project, and they could kind of speak to that more as to what the backstory and what the concept was for them providing it, because there may be other reasons for them for including it in the project. So they can provide input on that as well.
Okay, and we can cover that at that time. The last thing I have is really just a comment really on the circulation element. I read in a number of different places a huge advantage that this project has is its proximity to the Metrolink station, something that the state mandates would approve of. There is, and you have sidewalks along both long sides, along the street frontages of this site. As you go towards Daly, south towards Daly, most of that stretch has sidewalk and curb and gutter. So basically a protected sidewalk, but there's a couple stretches that don't have curb and gutter and sidewalk. And I have asked this to staff, and I understand that first of all, it's Caltrans. And in order to do anything with Lewis, there would need to be some cooperation with Caltrans, obviously. Caltrans isn't going to widen Lewis for a long time. I think you mentioned it's in their 10 to 40 year plan. So my comment is to suggest that the lines of communication between city and Caltrans on this remain open. And if there's any way that an interim sidewalk improvement project within these two little pieces, it's like 230 feet, that the lines of communication remain open for completing an interim project like that. It's really just a comment. Okay, so any further questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and open the public comment portion of this and ask for a presentation or, yes, from the project applicant representative. There we go. Thanks.
I appreciate it. Yeah, Chair Murphy and members of the commission, I appreciate your time this evening. I know it's getting late. And I appreciate the opportunity to present the project as well. Before, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Before I dive in to some of the details, I would like to introduce Michael Nye with the Area Housing Authority of Ventura County, who wanted to say a few words.
Thanks, Tony. Good evening, Chairman Murphy, commissioners, and staff. As Tony said, I'm Michael Nye, the Executive Director of the Area Housing Authority of the County of Ventura. The Area Housing Authority, you may not be aware of, but is a joint powers authority agency formed in 1972 under the California Health and Safety Code and serves 7 local jurisdictions, including the city of Camarillo. The AHA currently provides over 390 units of affordable housing at Camarillo. Although the Housing Authority is the applicant for 2800 Berry, our development team includes 2 other well-respected local nonprofits, Manny Mansions and Habitat for Humanity. Our 3 organizations share a common mission to provide, maintain, and expand affordable housing opportunities in Ventura County. Manny Mansions and the Housing Authority are... Hello? Manny Mansions and the Area Housing Authority are local nonprofit developers, property managers, and owners of over 1,500 permanent affordable housing units throughout Ventura County. The Area Housing Authority Manny Mansions team completed its first joint development in 2018, providing 23 units of family affordable rental housing in Moore Park. Our team just recently broke ground in Fillmore on 77 additional affordable family rental units and currently have an additional 3 projects in the pipeline. With the unique opportunity to include an affordable for sale component at 2800 Berry, we've called upon the local experts at Habitat for Humanity to lead the development of the 8 proposed condominiums. Our team is excited to mix in for sale units with the rentals and look for this to be a model in the future. Other team members attending tonight and available to answer questions include Doug Mingus, Associate Director of Housing Development at Manny Mansions, who will serve as the project manager for this development, and Alex Russell, Executive Vice President of Manny Mansions. Those are my comments. I thank you for your time tonight. And Tony, if you would take us through the presentation.
Great, thank you, Michael. And thank you again, commissioners. I do have a long list of notes that I made as you guys were going through your comments. I'm hoping that I can touch and answer on most of these. If there's anything else that I miss or that comes up after my presentation, I'm obviously happy to help answer those questions. First, as we get started, I'll touch on some project goals and objectives that we set forth as we were approaching this project, discuss the project setting and context, go through the design and site improvements in a bit more detail and highlight a few things that I think are important to consider, as well as talk about some of the community benefits. In terms of project goals and objectives, really our primary goal for this project was to create new, really high quality, affordable housing opportunities and a really wide and diverse mix of housing types for people with varying housing needs. We really wanted to activate sort of what we see as a bit of a blighted or underutilized lot in a very prominent location in the city, improve pedestrian connections in the neighborhood, implement really cutting edge green building, innovative green building strategies, including the solar and other energy and water conservation features, which I'll touch on a little bit more. Achieve the goals of the city's general plan and the city's vision for this site. They've been a really active partner in this, as you know, through the purchase of the site. And ultimately to create a really valuable and thriving community asset that we can all be proud of at the end of the day. In terms of the project background, we've been working on this project for quite some time now. The RFP was released in November of 2018. Our development and design team submitted a proposal, and we were awarded the project in May of 2019. Over the following summer and into the winter months, we really worked to refine the ENA, as well as refine the concept, design, and program in collaboration with the city. In March of 2020, this year, we engaged in a series of community outreach meetings with neighbors of the adjacent areas. We had some good turnout and generally a lot of support and a lot of people interested in potentially renting a home or purchasing a home. We also in March submitted our application, and over the spring and summer months of this year, worked closely with staff in all departments to ensure that we were conforming with the various zoning and other development standards. And that brings us here to today, which we're really excited about and excited for next steps on this project as we continue the process. So again, just to give you a little bit of context of how we generally approach the site, we first took a look at the surrounding context. This is a really exciting site. It's an infill site, which always kind of gets our creative juices flowing. It's there at the corner of Berry Street and Lewis Road, as you know, catty corner to the Amtrak station, close proximity to Old Town Camarillo along Ventura Boulevard, as well as the commercial uses along Arneal Road. The site is about a 2.5 acre site, and it's currently zoned for light manufacturing. And it was the previous stock lumber yard location. This is the zoning map. As you can see, we are requesting the general plan amendment to high density residential and the change of zone to RPD 30, which is consistent with the city's goals within the RFP for the site. And then as we dive into the site plan, one of the things that was really important to us as we started to approach the design is that Berry Street is a residential neighborhood. And so we really wanted to have a really compatible and consistent residential street frontage. So as you'll see in our elevations, each of those buildings that faces Berry Street sort of steps down to either a 1 or a 2-story building massing, just to kind of keep a similar rhythm of development as you would go down the street. Another thing that was really important is we wanted to create a lot of outdoor space. This project has 40% landscape and common open space by site area, and I'll talk about a little bit more of the common open space amenities in just a moment. But in order to create that really pleasant pedestrian experience as you're walking, not only through this project, but also on the surrounding streets, is to consolidate that parking into a parking structure along the south side of the site, which is adjacent to the mini storage. And so that was kind of our overarching approach for how we tackled the site design. In terms of the program, it's again 100% affordable housing for households earning less than 80% of the area median income. There's 60 rental apartments within buildings A, B, C, and D. and 8 for-sale condos, which is within building E. In terms of the unit mix, there's 7 studio units. There are 22 one-bedroom units, 16 two-bedroom units, and 23 three-bedroom units. And the rationale for that is that, again, we really wanted to create a wide variety of housing types for people with varying needs, including families down to single individuals. Looking a little bit closer at the common open space amenities for the project, we start kind of looking here at the center of the site, where we really wanted to create kind of a focal point. This is a 1,500 square foot community center that will house on-site services and programs for residents. We'll be working with many mansions and the housing authorities, property management and resident services in a lot more detail as we continue this process to really program those spaces and figure out what's going to be, you know, really needed and of benefit for the tenants that ultimately live in this community, as well as shared laundry facilities and mail hub and those types of amenities. Surrounding the community center, we have a series of outdoor amenities, including a tot lot or children's playground, barbecue areas and shared outdoor seating, as well as kind of a large, what we call village green, that's sort of anchored by like a large heritage tree that we're anticipating here, which we kind of I thought would be a good focal point as you're traversing down Berry Street, or kind of anchor that space there. There's other passive gardens and landscape courtyard areas throughout the site. Again, this is they're a little bit more passive, maybe a little bit quieter, not as much activity as kind of the central green area. Next, we wanted to focus on connecting those common open space areas to the public areas. So creating you know, view corridors and pedestrian corridors that connect to the pedestrian realm or the public realm, and then onto other adjacent areas. And then lastly, because again, this is a really great sort of gateway site and you know, really prominent location, wanted to include areas for public art that can kind of announce it and create a really great asset for the community. So those have not been designed quite yet, although as we get further into the process, we will likely again be working with not only the city, but the resident services and potentially tenants, and kind of really creating you know, something that public art pieces that incorporate the tenants, maybe the kids of the area or something like that, that can all contribute to those pieces. We do include a subdivision, and I wanted to take a moment to kind of clarify exactly why that's necessary. It's a bit of a formality for us, or technicality, but essentially in order to provide the for sale condominiums, those needed to be on a separate parcel, so that parcel can individually be condominiumized through the State Department of Real Estate and kind of go through that process. They'll also finance separately, so that was a consideration of the affordable rental housing, which will be on lot 1, which kind of is everything except for building E. Will again obtain state and local grants, tax credit financing, and the like. We will be providing easements for shared vehicular pedestrian access across the site, utility services, etc. And then a property owners association will be set up so that all the common area will be managed by sort of the property manager or the property owners association. There'll be agreements to ensure that occurs. In terms of the building design, again, as Jackie had mentioned earlier, I think it's important to recap. The buildings will be a Spanish revival or colonial style, really inspired by Camarillo's history and character of Old Town and consistent with the Heritage Zone design requirements. We really wanted to focus on providing a real variety of massing between 1- and 3-story elements, so that we can articulate these facades and provide a lot of traditional detailing and materials. And then all of the units have private covered patios and balconies, which also adds a lot of kind of nuance and interest in the massing of the buildings themselves, so that they don't look kind of all the same or all boxy. Again, just touching here, we see on the top, this is the Berry Street elevation, and you can see that building component drops down to 2 stories where it faces Berry Street. Building B, again, similar. It's a bit reoriented, kind of faces Berry Street a little bit more, again, dropping down to 2 stories here. Similarly with building C, this is kind of a unique building in that its access is on a diagonal, reaching out toward that intersection of Berry Street and Lewis. Again, dropping down to 2 stories on both ends. Building D is the parking structure building, and it's also the building where we'll have the community center, the indoor community center, and the manager's unit, which would be right above. And this, again, because it sort of is the centerpiece for this more active communal open space in the center of the site, we saw this as a real nice focal point to kind of anchor the entire project, especially the more communal aspects of it. And then lastly, building E, the for sale units. Again, it's a very consistent architectural style, though it has kind of a look and feel unto its own. Each of these units will have a private separate entry, private at-grade garages. These will function as separate townhomes, although they are condominiums. Each will have private covered patios and balconies, as well as in-unit laundry. Here we have some of the project renderings. This is a view of Berry Street, sort of looking back toward Lewis Road, which would be here on the left. And you can start to get a sense of that view corridor toward the community center in the back, and then sort of that large, more heritage tree there in the center. This is the view of Lewis Road. Again, where you can see sort of that driveway entry into the parking structure, as well as the public improvements along Lewis Road, the sidewalk parkway. And then an aerial view where you can start to get a sense of how the buildings come together, integrate, and how these interstitial spaces might look and feel as well. There was a question about the solar panels here. Basically, we have not done all of the engineering on these yet, and there's a lot of, it can vary. We will be bringing in a photovoltaic consultant to help with the design and engineering of that system. But based on the square footage that we've allowed for, we anticipate that basically all of the electricity for the common areas would all be provided for, and then some. We don't know where that exactly lies, but that's something that we'll be looking at as we continue forward. Real quick, there was also a question about security in the parking structure. And one thing that many mansions in the Housing Authority typically do on their projects, and I believe it's also a condition of approval, is to provide some security cameras throughout the site, and the parking structure would certainly be an area that we would include some of those as well. There were a few questions about public improvements and undergrounding, which I wanted to take a few minutes and provide some clarification on. So these, again, are the public improvements along Lewis Road. We'll be repairing the sidewalk there, installing a new sidewalk where one doesn't currently exist, as well as the landscape parkway on Berry Street. Reconstructing the accessible ramp at the corner of Lewis and Berry Street. And then the undergrounding along Lewis Road, essentially what we understand or what we're anticipating is that we will take it underground from this pole along this Lewis Road stretch and thereby remove the overhead wires and poles from that frontage. And that will be done in coordination with SoCal Edison, as well as the placement of our ultimate on-site transformer. Regarding the utility undergrounding waiver that we are requesting, it did come up, and I think the question was answered, but just to clarify again, so there are these 3 existing utility poles which are on the adjacent property to the west of ours. As you can see here, I've kind of highlighted the property line there, and then these poles are sort of just immediately adjacent to that on the adjacent properties. These poles serve what we understand is at least 5 properties here, and undergrounding those poles and overhead wires would require obviously the removal of the poles, trenching for the overhead lines themselves, but then also trenching through these private properties to the existing meter locations, and then replacing those meters to accept an underground service. Just the scale and magnitude of not only doing that, but also coordinating with those property owners themselves would we believe a logistical challenge, if not infeasibility, and would add a significant cost and time to this that wasn't anticipated or that is really needed in order to accommodate this project. And so again, we're requesting that that condition be modified to remove the undergrounding requirement for those poles to the west. Other than that, we agree with the remaining conditions and the staff recommendations for the granting of the land use approvals. And we are, again, just very, very excited about this project. Me personally, I'm born and raised in Camarillo, and this project is definitely close to me, and I'm excited to be a part of the team on this. I do believe it improves a vacant lot in a prominent location along Lewis Road. There's a strong, diverse mix of new affordable and high quality housing opportunities that will be provided as a part of this project. It's consistent with the city's general plan and the city's vision and affordable housing goals for the site. The design is compatible and sensitive to the adjacent neighborhood and uses. And this development team is a very well-known local partnership that have just an absolutely amazing track record of providing some great affordable housing projects in our community. And so with that, I hope I got to all your questions. I'm sure that there are still a few that are lingering out there. And so if there's anything else that I can help answer, please just feel free to ask. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Tomasello. This is Joe Vaca. I just wanted to share, I think there was a question. Did you cover the fact that they're walk-up buildings without, I don't believe they have elevators?
Excuse me, sorry about that. These are non-elevated buildings with the exception of the parking structure. However, as part of the tax credit funding requirements as well as the goals and desires of the development team. Essentially, all of the ground floor units throughout the project will be accessible or adaptable, what they call.
Thank you. And can you speak for a moment about the height? I know that the front setback off of Lewis Road is fairly significant, and it's treated like a well-landscaped buffer area adjacent to Lewis Road. And the wall heights out there, I think, are more traditional for what we've experienced at Village at the Park, for example, with like about 3.5 foot tall wall. But can you kind of talk about that a moment?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the goal for Lewis Road was to create a more pleasant pedestrian experience. And although it's a more trafficked, road at this point, we do anticipate that there would be, eventually some connections, maybe underneath the overpass and elsewhere as it continued on. So in our opinion, as architects and planners, we think it would be a shame for there to be sort of a higher, wall that would, really kind of separate this project or any project from that streetscape. In terms of noise and some of those kind of nuisances, as was stated previously, the city does have requirements for noise attenuation. Those, again, we'll be obtaining a acoustical study that'll give us some recommendations. Typically, what we see is not only the walls of the building significantly attenuate sound. If there's any additional attenuation that's needed to meet those requirements, you typically go to like a dual glaze window or even a triple glaze window in certain cases. But from our understanding of the noise that's out there, the noise levels that are out there, we don't anticipate that would necessarily be required.
Thank you. I'm just trying to highlight some items in my notes, and I think one of the last ones was on the access to the parking structure for two purposes. One, if you can touch on security, I believe it will be fully illuminated, but I'm sure you'll probably have some sort of a security system and or cameras. And if you can confirm it's open, and then also isn't the guest parking provided in the parking structure? And then tied to that also, I believe the centralized parking structure was the best tool to utilize that form of design to try to accommodate a maximum amount of parking with the maximum square footage for the number of units anticipated. So if you can please touch on those things. And then of course, I'll let Chairman Murphy take over from there and ask any other questions the commission may have.
Sure. There were a few in there, so I'll try to touch on all of those. Again, regarding the security, at this point, we aren't anticipating security gates that would kind of bar people from entering the parking structure, although they will be well illuminated, and we will have some security cameras within the parking structure. So that should be accommodated within those. And then there'll also be an on-site resident manager who's there close to the parking structure, that will at minimum have sort of eyes on the street, as they say, in case there's any issues that could arise. In terms of visitor parking, at this point, we don't have them designated. I would anticipate that we would have them sort of out in this area, but we haven't formally designated them as a visitor parking space versus a resident parking space.
All right. Well, Tony, thank you very much for that presentation. That was very thorough, much appreciated. And I like the way you incorporated answers to a number of our previous questions for staff into your presentation. So I'd like to open it up to commissioner questions for the applicant and remind that Mr. Michael Nye with the AHA is also present. And I think it was mentioned that Habitat for Humanity and Many Mansions representatives are also here this evening. So why don't we go ahead and open it up for questions for any of those applicant representatives at this time? Any questions? Okay, we have one from Commissioner Vandermeulen.
Just one that didn't get answered or talked about, and that was secure bicycle racks. So parking, if they anticipate that not everybody will be driving. Is there any space in the garage for bicycle racks?
Chair Murphy, Commissioner Vandermeulen, thank you again for reminding me of that. I did mention, or did want to touch on that as well. There aren't any required bicycle parking for this zone, but it is something that is important to us, and we are anticipating including, although we're not showing it currently. But we provided some space within the parking structure, and then we anticipate having some bike racks, secured bike racks in locations sort of immediately adjacent to the building, so that they can kind of be more in closer proximity to each of the various buildings, rather than just in one sort of large centralized location in the parking structure.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, any further questions for applicant representatives? No? I had one for Michael Nye. I think might best be able to answer this question, but could you talk a little bit about the interest in this project? My impression and my hope, my belief is that there's a tremendous amount of need and input that you're getting from the general public out there in terms of absolutely hoping to get on a waiting list or whatever. Are you getting a good response from the market out there on this?
Yes, Chairman Murphy, thank you for the question. We haven't obviously opened up any kind of waiting list or anything along those lines, but as Tony mentioned, during our two neighborhood outreach meetings that we had there in the neighborhood, which I might add were luckily held on March 5th and 10th before the lockdown. So we were able to do those in person. They were well attended. And we did have even folks there that asking, how do we get on the list? And I know that I spoke to one lady that had lived, grew up in the Berry Street neighborhood and had moved away and was hoping to be able to move back with her children because her parents lived very close to the area as well. So yeah, there's as I'm sure our partners will attest, there's a great need for affordable housing in Camarillo and throughout Ventura County. So we don't anticipate any difficulty in leasing these units.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. Thank you for that answer.
You bet.
If there are no further questions for applicant representatives, Vice Chair Talmadge, go ahead, please, sir.
Yes, this is not so much a question as just a comment. I wanted to applaud the effort, the design work done by RRM, and Tony, thanks for being here with us tonight. And to Michael Nye from the Ventura County Housing Authority, and Alexander Russell from Many Mansions for, I think, a great cooperative effort in putting together a project that makes a lot of sense these days and answers a certain need that we have for providing affordable housing for the residents of Camarillo. And I'm sure we're going to get some people from outside the city that are going to look at this and say, hey, if they can do it, maybe we can too. And it goes a long way in meeting our housing demands. So thank you all to the whole team for the project that you put together. Thank you.
Thank you. And I wish we could take 100% of the credit, but your city council also, along with staff, had some great input in what their vision was, especially the mix of for sale and rental units on the same property. So we're very excited. And as Tony said, as a resident of Camarillo, I'm very excited about this particular property. So looking forward to partnering with the city moving forward.
Right. Thank you for your comment just now. I was not neglecting the council nor staff. Quite the contrary. I think we've had a lot of good support from them, especially the staff. But I wanted to get to the design team, and you're the guys that are actually going to do this. So you're the ones that are under the hook, and you've got to make it happen. So I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Chairman Murphy, I do believe that we still have some people wishing to speak on this.
Correct. So if we don't have any further questions for applicant representatives, and I don't see any, let's go ahead and turn it over to the attendees here who would like to speak. I see a Ramsey with a hand up. So Ramsey, could you please proceed? You have 2 minutes. Thank you. 3 minutes. Ramsey, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, I was muting. But I'm Berry Street. So I was wondering if these few things were considered or could be considered. I know there's a bunch of questions about traffic flow. One of the commissioners talked about making a left turn off of Berry Street onto Lewis Road. It's very difficult right now. But when I look at this, was the speed limit on Lewis Road ever considered to be reduced? That would be one question. Just so, because there is a 50 mile an hour speed limit right now. And that's the slow traffic on that road. So with no light being considered for that corner, the flow of traffic, the way I look at this plan, the flow of traffic looks like if you want to make a left off of Lewis, you can't, because it says right turn only. So they're going to have to come through where the purchased homes are at onto Berry Street to make a left, or make a right on Berry and then make a left on Lewis. So that traffic is going to increase tremendously, the way I look at it. And then one of the commissioners also talked about visitor parking not being designated. I'm looking at the building, I can't remember what letter it is, that faces Berry Street. And it looks like the front door of one of those buildings is going to be facing Berry Street. And I can't imagine the person living in that building walking across the property to the parking structure. They're going to park on the road on Berry Street itself. And right now, at any given time of the day, that stretch between the fire hydrant and the corner of Lewis and Berry is full of people, of cars already, the people that live on the street. So that's going to be a little congestion. But I was just wondering if those things were considered when all these, but especially the light at the corner was not warranted. That's what I think that was said. But that's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Ramsey. Appreciate your comments, and we'll try to get back to those and take on the next speaker. Invite the next speaker. I have a Jackson Piper with his hand up.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Jackson.
Hi, my name's Jackson Piper. I'm with Ventura County YIMBY. That's for Yes in My Backyard. We're a volunteer organization that's advocating for more housing and more affordable housing within Ventura County. And I think that this is an incredible project. I think that most contemporary projects, especially when they're dealing with affordable housing, are concerned with the bottom line, and a lot of them end up kind of looking like it. A lot of them, I think, end up being kind of drab and uninspiring, and this is the complete opposite of that. I think the way that the development concept proposes to push most of the parking into the structure, even though it'll be more of an upfront expense to the developer, really frees a lot of the site for, I would say, more valuable uses than parking. And the way that they've organized those units around the rest of the site, sort of around these open courtyards and lining the streets, really makes this look like it's going to be more than just kind of fortified, isolated housing units. It really looks like it's going to be a community. I think that this design really sets a good precedent for what could happen in other places in Camarillo, or if I get my wish, throughout Ventura County, in terms of providing good quality architecture and good public space for residents, and also meeting our housing needs, which we're desperately in need of more housing because we haven't built nearly enough over the preceding decades. I would be thrilled to see something like this in terms of quality for market rate architecture or market rate projects. Seeing it in affordable housing project is really quite stunning, and I really hope that the Planning Commission tonight votes to approve all of the aspects of the project and help it move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate those comments. Or Jackson, I'm sorry. All right, next hand up I have is a telephone number ending in 6091.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners.
Hi. Welcome.
Hi. Well, actually, good evening. It seems like I've been on here forever, but it's been interesting listening. And my name is Perry Butler. I'm an apprentice of the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters, and I'm also a resident of Camarillo and a veteran of the United States military. I also believe this project will negatively impact our community for different reasons. And one of the reasons is this owner developer in the past recently completed a project in Oxnard for veteran housing. Throughout the whole duration of the project, he did not reach out to the community for local skilled and trained veterans, giving them an opportunity to work on the project. And there's nothing more rewarding than to be able to build in your own community. I feel like we need more opportunities in construction for veterans and other targeted, skilled, and trained men and women who are in apprenticeship programs. Lastly, I feel we need responsible developers willing to invest in our community, utilizing skilled and trained men and women who are affiliated with certified apprenticeship programs. With that being said, I'd like you guys to consider.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Butler. Appreciate your comment. The next speaker we have is Jacob Lighton. Jacob, please proceed. Jacob, are you still there? I don't.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. I can see you too. Hi, Jacob. Welcome.
Hi, how are you guys doing? My name is Jacob Litton. I am an apprentice with the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters, and I was born and raised in Camarillo, California. And I recreate and work in the vicinity of the project. And I believe that there will be negative consequences on the environment impacts of this project. We oppose this project for multiple reasons. I think this project will impact the project's MND underestimates the VMT, and I think the project's MND fails to include the construction HRA to assess risk to nearby sensitive receptors. Also, unlawfully defers the development of mitigation measures for the project's environmental impacts. The project's environmental impacts reports fail to analyze or adequately mitigate the project's noise complaints. The construction activities will take place as little as 15 feet away from adjacent residential sites, yet no finding of significant or mitigations is provided. The project is not consistent with the city's general plan of SCAGs, RTPs, or SCS plans. That's all I have. Thank you guys for the opportunity to speak, and have a good night.
All right. Thank you, Jacob. Appreciate your comments. And let's see what else we have here. And I don't see any further hands up. Is that correct? Do we have no further attendees with their hands up?
We have one more. We have a Rebecca.
Oh, I see Rebecca. I'm sorry. Rebecca, go ahead, please.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Okay, hi, good evening, planning commissioners and staff. My name is Rebecca Albron. I am a founding member of Ventura County YIMBY. I know that Jackson spoke earlier, but I just want to say that, you know, wow to this project development. I am a Ventura County resident, and I have been trying to advocate throughout the community for affordable housing for people who look like me, people who grew up in families like mine that often face, you know, not having secure housing. And I just want to say, wow, because this project is just amazing. Number one, it's all 68 affordable housing units. That's amazing. I can tell that the collaboration between area housing, between Habitat for Humanity, Many Mansions, and really the way that the Planning Commission and the city has decided to look at housing and how they want to address housing for their community is something that should be a model for the rest of Ventura County. You know, I really like the project itself. You know, it includes rentals, it includes opportunities for home ownership, and the fact that they also include single room occupancies, which are, we haven't seen a lot of those being used throughout the county, is just really great. And, you know, aside from the collaboration, the development itself, I think, is really a model for other communities to attract these type of developers and collaboration. They ultimately benefit everyone in the community. I also want to thank the staff for putting together that report, especially when they made a section regarding the public benefits that this development, and, you know, besides providing housing to people who really need it, how it will improve everyone, you know, life in the community. I think that was really great. One question that I do have is in regards to the price points. I'm not sure that if they can elaborate. I know it's low, very low income and extremely low income households. What does that mean in terms of numbers? Is there any projection about what the household income looks like and the unit
Thank you, Rebecca.
prices?
I do apologize, but your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you, Rebecca, for your comments. And I'm looking for any further hands. I don't see any. Could I have a confirmation on that, that there are no further?
That
no
is
further
correct. There are no other requests to speak.
Okay. Let's see. At this time, should we, Mr. Secretary, should I ask staff to answer some of the questions that have been raised?
Yes, I think it'd be helpful if Mr. Nye can give some information on the question as to rental rates and affordability rates.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Vaca. Let me ask Doug Mingus from our development team, who's the project manager, and has been working with the numbers, to jump in here and give us an idea on what the rents would be.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Doug Mingus. I'm the Vice President of Many Mansions Real Estate Division. First of all, as you know, the rental rates target the 30% AMI, 50% AMI, and 60% AMI levels. Roughly the 50% AMI level in Ventura County is roughly, I'd say, somewhere between $35,000 a year and $45,000 a year annual income for a family of four. Those numbers get adjusted, of course, every year. Now, in terms of the actual rents, I'm looking at my schedule here. So a 2-bedroom in this project, the 2-bedroom gross rent would be, we're looking at $763 for a 2-bedroom, which would be substantially below market, of course. A 3-bedroom rental rate would be $881. The ones and the studios would be, of course, less than that, in the $600 and $500 range. I'm available for more questions if needed.
Thank you for that. I believe there was also a question relative to traffic. If you could please respond to that, Mr. Samonte.
I think the question was regarding access on Berry Street to Lewis. To confirm, the striping on Lewis Road prohibits left turns in and out of the driveway on Lewis Road. So yes, if residents want to make a left onto Lewis Road, they'd have to go out to the Berry Street driveway. I think the commenter or speaker asked about the traffic signal. Again, I will say that the traffic study did not reveal or show that a traffic signal was warranted at that intersection, and Caltrans agreed with that. So,
thank you.
Jason, could I get a quick clarification on that traffic study? Was that a comparative study comparing what would have gone onto this site relative to the residential project that we're looking in front of us here? When you mentioned the traffic study shows that there is an insignificant impact on the area traffic circulation. Was that a comparative study that used what might have been on that site, a commercial use that would have replaced the building supply use, or was it just a standalone residential project versus a vacant lot?
it was actually a combination of both. The study did look at what the traffic would be with just purely residential, and then it compared it to the land use, the existing land use of what was there previously. Did I answer your question, Chair Murphy?
Yes, you did. You did. Thank you. Let's see. We had a question from Perry Butler having to do with the Carpenters Union and a perceived lack of opportunity for, I believe, veterans to participate in the process.
I don't know that that's a question or a statement, so I think we need to just let that be.
Okay. And then the last one I had with Jacob Litton, I had some difficulty with that one because there were a number of acronyms that I was not familiar with, but it was, if there was a question there or Mr. Secretary, perhaps again, that was a number of statements.
I think that was basically a concluding statement in that overall he was opposed to the project.
Seeing no further comments, no further members of the public attendees with their hands up, I think I can go ahead and close the public testimony portion of this and go ahead and move into commissioner comments on this matter, on these matters, I should say. Anyone like to get, go ahead.
I will say, I don't recall whether or not the architectural committee weighed in on this.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed the architectural committee.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Vandermeulen. 1,000 apologies. So if you could, yes, go ahead with the architectural report. With your mic on.
There. It was going on and off. Sorry. Okay, when we looked at it, the two of us, we felt that the design fits with the heritage zone. I wish I had a voice. The light stucco with the tile roofs have a nice contrasting and clean look. There's dimension to the walls as well as to the roof lines and the window shape. We like that the parking was on site, as well as being able to include solar panels. It meets all of our design criteria and will be a great addition to the area as well as to our population need. So that's what we found. And we felt that we were very happy to approve this along the way and move it forward.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I think we can now move into commissioner comments on these matters. Would anyone like to get started with that? Any comments? Go ahead, Commissioner Edsel.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I was impressed with the overall design and the time and thought that was put in by the architects and working with the city. The architectural, for being a lower cost housing, filling a need that the city really needs, they had a lot of architectural detail and just a really nice project. And the way they configured the different buildings on the lot, it's just not a row housing. It flows nice. And it definitely fills the need that our city has for providing affordable housing and several, units all on one site. It's going to be a community, I think is what the architect said. It really looks good. And it's sure a lot better than just a vacant abandoned lot on that corner. And I think it's going to be a model for doing other projects like this and hopefully in the county as well. But yeah, I like it a lot and can support it.
Thank you. Commissioner Vandermeulen.
Okay, I'll give this another try. But I've been excited about this, I think, ever since we first saw a concept of what it might be. And, taking up that lot and building something that looks this nice, it's going to be suitable for so many people that have such a hard time finding a place to live and look as nice as it is and close to the transportation, close to Old Town. I don't know if we'll have to try and fit a bus stop close to this or not, or if it'll fit on the current bus stop round, but I'm sure we can look into that later. But I'm just really pleased to see this finally coming forward. So that's all I have.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Espinosa, please.
I honestly, I think the project definitely has a potential to be quite a gold standard for an affordable housing project like this. The architectural design and layout is remarkable for this concept. I think that there's a lot of pluses. There's definitely a need for this housing. And I think that's built in to have a management structure to be able to upkeep the complex and to be able to address, any on-site issues and improvements, repairs, all the like. So the thing that I think is just going to be a little tricky, I don't know what the solution is going to be, but kind of along the lines of what you mentioned with the sidewalk, the pedestrian access from that complex to the train station is something that it'd be nice to make that an ideal and a very inviting throughway for somebody who wants to walk from that complex to the train station. And whether that's how doable that is, what it's going to take in order to make it that way, because there is certainly a high-speed traffic on Lewis Road that has to be considered. That's my only concern with it. But aside from that, I think, and I have no heartburn about the request for the waiver. Normally, you want everything to go underground in terms of electrical when you can. But in this instance, given that the electrical supply is not actually supplying power to the complex itself, that it's for existing housing that's already there, and that is going to be, cost prohibitive and impactful on the residents that are already there. I think that's certainly an acceptable accommodation. So that's all I have. I can definitely support the project.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Vice Chair Talmadge, please.
Yes, thank you. First off, I appreciate the people that hung in there with us and offered the opportunity to provide their views on the project. We heard a couple of people from the YIMBY crowd, which is good. And thank you for coming. And we heard a couple of people that had some differences with the project itself and the mitigated negative declaration. And I appreciate those comments. Thank you for coming and thank you for providing them. And again, back to my earlier comment, I think this is an excellent project that was very carefully thought through by the architectural team and by the team of the County Housing Authority and Many Mansions. So I find that this is, I think, an excellent project in an excellent location to proceed. I think it's a very positive statement for the city, and I think it's a very positive statement for the entire community of Ventura County to look at affordable housing. With regard to the mitigated negative declaration, an exhaustive initial study was done, and as a result of that, a mitigated negative declaration was prepared. And while there was only one item that was identified for further consideration for nesting birds, a number of issues were addressed and discussed, and questions came up tonight, and they were answered. So I appreciate the thoroughness that the city has taken in responding to the comments that were provided during the public review period, and then also the late arrivals that came in after the close of the public review period. I think we've had a fair hearing of those issues. notwithstanding a 30-page letter that gave a lot of citations of various CEQA cases, many of which don't apply in this case, but I'll leave that to the lawyers to figure that one out. But I think the mitigated negative declaration is a good document and should proceed forward with our recommendation for approval. And with regard to the waiver of the underground utilities, I think a case has been made that we should recommend to the council that we approve this waiver. And I would also recommend we waive any in lieu fee. I think the project that this proposes is providing a great benefit to the city, that they shouldn't have to pay this in lieu fee for the undergrounding of utilities, because they're providing back to the city affordable housing in numbers which are, I think, significant. And the project itself supports the city's goals and policies. There are many public benefits to be derived from the project. And but I wouldn't want to dovetail in on the comment made by our chairman and the most recent comment about the pedestrian access. I think that is important. We are close to a transit hub, and I think any actions the city can take to make that a little bit easier for people to walk to the train station, I think would be great. But as this project is designed and as it's proposed, I can fully support it. So thank you for my opportunity to comment.
Thank you for your comments. Every year we look at our RHNA goals, and we try as planning commissioners and the city council and all of the staff and community development work very hard to meet our regional housing goals. And the goals that are most difficult to meet are those of affordable housing. So for a project like this to be, I believe it was conceived within the city and to be pursued with diligence, and to be at the point that it's 100% affordable unit community, I think is wonderful. When I think about the fact that we review those RHNA goals every year, and that we will be reviewing next year, establishing the moving forward I believe it's an 8-year housing element. When we're doing that, we will look at this project, and some of the elements of that project will be able to incorporate into that element. I think that's wonderful. Beyond that, the objective part, I just think it's the right thing to do. We need to address every element in our community and do our best to provide housing for all income levels. I like that it's close to the metro station. I think I heard that a preliminary analysis for the solar panels shows that the panels will provide 100% of the energy or the electrical for this. It's not a final done deal for that, but I like what I heard there. On the sidewalk, it's really not a big project. What's more difficult about connecting a protected sidewalk with this site is the administrative challenges that are involved with Caltrans and the city working something out. Again, it would probably be interim, because eventually Caltrans will be widening Lewis Road, I understand from the staff, from all the way from Daly up to Las Posas Drive, but that's a 10 to 40 year project. And so it concerns me that it could be a several decade wait for that little piece of sidewalk. It's just, again, it's not a large construction project. That piece, that critical piece, would need to wait. that long. So I will once again encourage staff to keep the communication lines open with Caltrans and make effort to try to finish off those last two little pieces of protected sidewalk so that there's a continuous path of travel, safe path of travel to the Metrolink. It's a beautiful looking project. I tried to write down what Jackson Piper said, and I can't say it as well as him, but he said he looked at it and it's a not fortified isolated compound or something like that. It is not at all a fortified compound. It's a beautiful looking housing project. And we saw that tonight. So I can definitely support the project. So with that, I think we can call for resolutions on this matter.
Thank you, Chairman Murphy and members of the Planning Commission. We'll start with the mitigated negative declaration 2020-3. Resolution number PC 2020-27. A resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Camarillo recommending approval and adoption to the City Council of a mitigated negative declaration 2020-3.
Make a motion to waive further reading and vote for adoption.
I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Etzel, seconded by Vice Chair Talmadge. Let's go ahead and vote. Commissioner Espinosa,
Yes.
Commissioner Vandermeulen,
Muted.
Commissioner, we'll get back to Beverly. She's resetting, I think. Commissioner Etzel,
Yes.
Beverly, are you with us still?
I think her battery, she had to plug it in.
You're muted. There we go.
I hit something wrong.
No worries.
So I had to find it back again.
So your
But
vote
yes.
on the mitigated negative deck? Yes,
Is-
okay. Vice Chair Talmadge.
Yes.
And Commissioner Espinosa, did you vote?
Yes, it did.
All right, thank you. And mine is a yes as well, so this passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is GPA 2020-1 Area Housing Authority Resolution number PC 2020-28. A resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Camarillo recommending approval to the City Council of a request by Area Housing Authority of the County of Ventura for an amendment to the land use element of the city's general plan, further described as GPA 2020-1.
I'll make a motion to waive further reading and vote for adoption.
Second.
By Commissioner Etzel, seconded by Commissioner Espinosa. Let's go ahead and vote. Commissioner Espinosa,
Yes.
Vandermeulen,
Yes.
Commissioner Etzel,
Yes.
Vice Chair Talmadge,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. So that too carries 5-0.
Thank you. Next is change of zone 338, resolution number PC 2020-29. A resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Camarillo recommending approval to the City Council of a request by Area Housing Authority of the County of Ventura for a change of zone from light manufacturing M1 to residential plan development 30 dwelling units per acre maximum, which is RPD 30U, located on the southwest corner of Berry Street and Lewis Road, State Route 34, at 2800 Berry Street, further described as change of zone 328.
I'll make a motion to waive further reading and vote for adoption.
I'll second.
By Commissioner Espinosa, seconded by Commissioner Vandermeulen. Let's go ahead and vote. Commissioner Etzel,
Yes.
Commissioner Espinosa,
Yes.
Vandermeulen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Talmadge,
Yes.
yes. as well. Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, last and not least is the residential plan development permit number 205 and conditional use permit 305. It's a joint resolution for those two items, which is resolution number PC 2020-30. A resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Camarillo approving a residential plan development permit request by Area Housing Authority of the County of Ventura for the development of 59 affordable rental units restricted to extremely low income, very low income, and low income households, 1 unrestricted manager's rental unit, and 8 affordable for sale condominium units restricted to low income households, and a conditional use permit to establish 7 single room occupancy units located at the southwest corner of Berry Street and Lewis Road, State Route 34, at 2800 Berry Street, further described as RPD 205 and CUP 305.
Chair and commissioners and staff, I wanted to make sure we somehow address the recommendation on the waiver for the undergrounding of the utilities. Did we want to include that in one of the motions here? Not sure.
That's a good point. We could actually include that by minute action as well.
Yeah. Okay. If I could comment, in this particular resolution, this has many of the conditions of approval, and page 11 of the conditions under utilities, number 70 relates to the undergrounding of the utilities. So we could either say we amend that to make our recommendation, or as Director Vaca indicates, we could do it by memorandum. So I defer to legal counsel, which is the clearest way to do it, but this would be the place we would do it if we did it.
I would recommend that we do accept a motion to include a vote on this and include that in minute action to be included in the minutes, and then we could share that information with the city council and the city council agenda report. Is that okay with you, Ms. Richmond?
Yeah, I think just to make sure, because it appears in the TTM and in the residential plan development as a condition 68. So maybe just have the motion or minute action reflect both of those.
Thank you.
Works.
So would someone like to make such a motion?
I guess I should make the motion. I would move that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Council to approve the requested waiver of undergrounding the utilities on the west side of the site and to waive in lieu fees.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved by, did we talk about waiving the fees for the west side?
No, I did. No, we did talk about it, and they said there was an approximate estimate of about $30,000 based on the lineal feet of electric line that was involved. And in part of the request for the waiver, the applicant indicated that the cost to them to do that would be in the vicinity of $400,000. And I think that that's very significant cost in this project that I think we should find reason to waive that because of the other benefits the project provides to the city.
I just wanted to clarify that it's just over $40,000.
Oh, 40,000. Okay. All right. But 40,000 versus 400,000, which is what they say. Thank you, Ms. Tucker.
All right. So waiving the in lieu fee and
waive the requirement.
And waiving the requirement for the west side pole undergrounding has been moved by Vice Chair Talmadge, seconded by
Edsel.
Is that Espinosa?
Commissioner Edsel seconded.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Espinosa. Let's go ahead and vote. I think you asked us to vote on this.
Yes, please.
Okay, Commissioner Vandermeulen.
That's a,
I missed that.
I
Is that,
wasn't sure that we could actually do that, but I guess if we can vote on this, I would say yes.
Well, just to be clear to everyone, you're voting to include this recommendation in the minutes based on what was moved and seconded. I believe the second was by Commissioner Edsel. Is that correct, Commissioner Edsel?
Yes.
Okay, so it was moved by Vice Chairman Talmadge, seconded by Commissioner Edsel. And the action that you guys are voting on will be included in the minutes, one way or another, depending on the vote. If it's supported, it'll be in the minutes. If it's not, it'll be in the minutes.
Oh, thank you for that clarification. In that case, it's a yes.
okay, thank you. Commissioner Espinosa,
Yes.
Commissioner Edsel,
Yes.
Vice Chair Talmadge.
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. That carries 5-0.
So thank you all very much. That was a good point of clarification from our city attorney, Richmond. And I believe that concludes this item.
We didn't vote on the basic resolution.
No, we didn't.
The plan development. And
I stopped you right before you were going to get your vote in on the 5th on that item in case you wanted that. So I'm sorry, Joe, you may have to
Okay.
reread that one or just.
I don't know that we need to reread it, but
No,
go ahead and take a vote. It's the residential plan development 205 and conditional use permit 305. It's for the balance of the architecture and site plan and for the affordable units and the single room occupancy units located at 2800 Berry Street. And it's resolution number PC 2020-30.
And I'll make a motion to waive further reading and vote for adoption.
I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Edsel, seconded by Commissioner Vandermeulen. Let's go ahead and vote. Commissioner Vandermeulen,
Yes.
Commissioner Espinosa,
Yes.
Commissioner Edsel,
Yes.
Vice Chair Talmadge.
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. That passes 5-0.
Okay.
Congratulations to all parties.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
Job-
much for your
job well
support.
done.
Thank you all.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Nye, Mr. Russell, Mr. Menges. Thank you, Mr. Tomasio. Appreciate all your cooperation.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate the support.
We do actually also have, I believe, the tentative track map resolution, which I want to just double check.
Yes, that's true.
Just give me 1 second here. Just bear with me.
I think it's page 31 where the
Yes.
resolution is.
Yeah, I'm just getting to that too. Thank you. Okay. So we do have one additional resolution. We want to make sure we cover that. Resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Camarillo recommending approval to the City Council of a request by Area Housing Authority of the County of Ventura to subdivide approximately 2.58 acres into 2 lots and further subdivide parcel 2 into 8 residential condominium units located on the southwest corner of Berry Street and Lewis Road, State Route 34, at 2800 Berry Street, further described as tentative tract map 6017. And Monique, we actually need you to provide us with the number, please, for the resolution.
That's going to be 31.
So that's Planning Commission Resolution 2020-31.
Correct.
Okay, Chairman.
I'll make a motion to waive further reading and vote for adoption.
I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Espinosa, seconded by Commissioner Vandermeulen. Let's go ahead and vote. Commissioner Etzel,
Yes.
Commissioner Vandermeulen,
Yes.
Commissioner Espinosa,
Yes.
Vice Chair Talmadge,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. That carries 5-0.
Okay, now I really believe that officially concludes this item.
That closes it.
So Jackie, just to be sure, is there any other additional items that we needed to discuss or have the commission take action on?
Well, the city attorney feels that the prior minute action regarding the waiver of the utilities on the westerly side also includes the tentative track map resolution, then I think we will be okay.
Yeah, I think as long as the intent is being conveyed to the city council, and I think that minute action then would encapsulate both of those. And one of the ways you could do it is you could have it specifically waive the condition, but I think that really the whole point is just to let the council know what your recommendation is on the waiver. And so at the council meeting, that can be effectuated by removing the two related conditions, one in the tentative track map and the other in the RPD and CUP. So it works for me.
So I think just to put a bow on that, what we'll do is we'll include it in the minute action. We'll also show it potentially as strikeout in the city council resolutions.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. Is there any other additional input we need from staff or the city attorney's office?
Now, some sparkles on the bow. When you strike out, we're only striking out west, the westerly, not the whole condition, just to clarify.
Absolutely.
That's right. Only the western.
Correct.
That's good sparkling. All right, so that being completed, do we have a director's report for tonight?
Yes, we do. Because of all the heavy lifting that you guys have been doing the past couple of planning commission meetings, we're going to give you the rest of the year off. I know we've been putting in the work. Staff's been working really hard, and I really appreciate everyone's collaboration. There's been some significant progress on some of these general plan amendments that, as you know, take many years to work on and work through to get to public hearing. So we appreciate all the thoroughness and responsiveness and input that we received from all of you as planning commissioners in reviewing these projects. And all joking aside, we will not have a meeting for the remainder of 2020. And the first meeting we would have anticipated would have been January 5th, but it works out that all of the items based on scheduling will be better suited to be presented to the Planning Commission on January 19th. So while we don't have an official Planning Commission calendar yet, we will be bringing that forward to the commission. We anticipate the first meeting on January 19th, and that will include reorganization. As you all know, we do have a couple planning permits that will be presented and a conditional use permit, and then we will be reviewing and adopting the Planning Commission calendar for the remainder of 2021. So with that, I would just wish you all a very happy holidays. Please stay safe. I know conditions are changing every day, and it seems like we're kind of in a valley versus a peak of the COVID, depending on how you look at it. But I know things are kind of rough out there right now. So we're experiencing heightened awareness associated with COVID. So please be safe during the holiday season and do your best to enjoy. And we look forward to seeing you all in January. That concludes my presentation on the director's items. If there's any questions, I'll be available to answer those.
Any further comments by the commissioners?
Just happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah, same to all of you. Joe, congratulations on this project. It really is the culmination of a tremendous amount of work from your office. I think someone was wondering if any other agencies had taken on a project of this magnitude. And I don't know if it's true or not true, but it's certainly rare, and it's a great effort on your part. Thank you for doing that. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a great team effort with the executive staff, city council, and definitely with the planning staff. So Public Works has been very helpful with all of the items associated with traffic, water, and land development. So we're always trying to do our best as a team, and we're proud of this project. It's a really, really great showpiece. If it gets approved and built, we're very proud of it.
Yeah, they came together well. Gene, you have a question or comment?
No, not a question, just a comment. I echo everyone else's comment about happy holidays to everyone and their families. I hope you have a wonderful and safe time with your families and friends. But I wanted to reflect just very briefly. This has been a rough year. 2020 started off as, well, pretty much the same old stuff. And then all of a sudden, wham, we got hit with this COVID virus, and it caused us to change a lot of the way we work. And I really compliment the city staff on all of the hard work that they put into, and a lot of it is stuff we don't see, but we see as users of facilities, the special considerations given to people to provide outdoor eating space and closing streets and closing parking and just allowing business to continue as best they can. That was a Herculean effort done by the staff to work those kinds of things out. And it was stated in the State of the City address that Mayor Tremblay gave us a week or two ago. But it goes without saying that these are the kinds of things that make me proud to serve as a commissioner with the city of Camarillo, to see all of the great things that go on behind the scenes that we don't normally see, but do happen. And they just happen and we go, oh, okay. And then you really think about, well, how did that happen? Well, that's exciting that it did. And for the staff support we get for incredible reports, the thoroughness, the accuracy, and running down all of the details is really appreciated. So I'm glad we can say we close that book on 2020, and we look forward to 2021. And if it's more of the Zoom, well, we're just going to be Zoom experts.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get things back to some other semblance of order. But we're doing well, and it happens because a lot of good people are doing a lot of good things to help us in what we are trying to achieve. That is a good community for us all. So to my fellow commissioners, best wishes to you in the holiday season, and we'll see you next year, if not, out in the streets somewhere. And to the city staff, I'll be in to return my book, and we'll see you all then. So thank you so much for a very tough year, but we came through and really well done. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right, let's bring on the vaccinations, shall we?
Indeed, I'll be first. I'll volunteer. I was in the Navy. I got shot lots of times, so that's okay.
You got me. All right. Any further comments?
It's late. I just want to express appreciation and say thank you and for your professionalism, and wishing all your families happy holidays. Thank you for everything you do for the city.
Thanks. And to you, obviously.
I just want to try and say thank you to all the packets we get, all the information we get, to our wonderful staff. I want to wish everybody a well and healthy holiday season. I do look forward to this project that we were just talking about going forward and see some construction started down the road. However, I'm not sure I will ever become expert level at the Zoom process. Maybe even just good at it. We'll settle for that. But I wish everybody a well and healthy holiday. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, thanks, everyone. That will be a wrap for this year, and I'm going to call this meeting adjourned.
All right, good night, everybody.